Having reached the hour of 5:30, I am calling the March 1st, 2022 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton is absent. Councilmember Madrigal is absent. Councilmember Ricky?
Present.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Here.
Councilmember Knoyer is absent. Councilmember Wright?
Here.
Mayor Zwollen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment. We want to have a moment of reflection for the people that are in Ukraine. I received a holiday card that came on February 9th. It looks like it was stamped in December. And it said, "Dear Mrs. Zwollen, wishing you a happy and joyful holiday season. May peace, harmony, and blessings of this amazing time be yours. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Kind regards." This is from the mayor of Melnitsky. So at this time, I would like to wish the people there peace and harmony. We will have a moment of reflection. Thank you. We will have an invocation now from Laura Williams from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Dear Heavenly Father, I am grateful for this community, for the members of our community who serve us on this board and also in various positions through our community. I am grateful for the opportunity to come, for members of the community to be able to come and share their ideas, and for the transparency of the government process. I would ask thee to bless that members of our community will be able to share their ideas in a concise manner, that they might be able to share their thoughts in a way that would be pleasing unto thee and in a way that will convey their message. I would ask that members of the board might be in tune with the Spirit and would be inspired and led to the outcomes that would bring about peace, safety, and health for our members of our community. This is the prayer I leave in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to also note that Councilmember Knoyer has arrived. Item 10 has been removed from the agenda. Item 11, the public hearing for item 11 was noticed to commence at 5:45 p.m., so that item will be taken out of order on the agenda. And several public comments were received at CC meetings, and those have all been forwarded to the council.
Thank you. We have received them. Are there any conflicts of interest this evening from council members? Hearing none, in person or online. Thank you. There was no closed session this evening. I want to make sure that I do not miss that 5:45 timeline, lest I go forward with presentations.
That would be fine.
All right.
As long as we stop at 5:40.
Correct, got it. So next is acknowledgements and presentations. The first is a presentation of a proclamation proclaiming March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And I have a proclamation that I would like to read. Proclaiming March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Nearly 4 million Americans have grown up with severe physical or mental impairments that have slowed their learning, limited their mobility, inhibited their expression, and rendered them dependent on others for care and assistance. For many of these people with developmental disabilities, there is now the prospect of a brighter future and greater opportunity. We have become increasingly aware that such disabilities need not keep individuals from realizing their full potential in school, at work, or at home as members of their families and of their communities. New opportunities have been created through the efforts of those with developmental disabilities and their family members, along with professionals and officials at all levels of government. Working together, they have brought about significant changes in the public perception of young people and adults with developmental disabilities, opening new doors to independent and productive lives. Now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor of the City of Modesto, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the City of Modesto, and invite all individuals, agencies, and organizations concerned with the issue of developmental disabilities to observe this month with appropriate observances and activities directed toward increasing public awareness of the needs and the potential of Americans with developmental disabilities. I urge our community to join in according to our fellow residents with such disabilities both encouragement and the opportunities they need to lead productive lives and to achieve their full potential. Dated this first day of March 2022, Suze Wallen, Mayor. And this evening we have Anna Canberra, from Operations Manager for Society for Disabilities. Anna, would you like to come forward? Are you wanting to make some remarks tonight? And if not, that's okay. We will present. All right, that's just great. No problem at all. We will come down and present you with this certificate. Will my council members please join me? Our next one is presentation of proclamation proclaiming March 2022 as Women's History Month. And I will read the proclamation. Proclaiming March as Women's History Month. American women of every race and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our city and nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the life of the City of Modesto and nation, constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force. And American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And American women of every race and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. In the 2022 theme for Women's History Month is Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope. This theme is both a tribute to the ceaseless work of caregivers and frontline workers during this ongoing pandemic, and also a recognition of the thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope through history. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Suze Wallen, Mayor, do hereby proclaim March as Women's History Month in the City of Modesto, this first day of March 2022. Suze Wallen, Mayor. This evening, we have Amanda Hughes, the President of the Stanislaus County Commission for Women, and also Jane Manley here joining her, board member. Is that? Two more. I do have their names. I did not see them here, but I will say that Jessica Self is here. Is she here? I did not see her. There we go. A board member, and also Jenny Tang. There we go. Thank you. Would you like to make any remarks? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Wallen.
Uh-huh.
My name is Amanda Hughes, and I am the president of the Stanislaus County Commission for Women. Our organization was founded in 1975 by a group of women in a pizza parlor who recognized that only through collective action would we alleviate inequities facing women in the workplace and in the home. These women founded the Stanislaus County Commission for Women to promote women and their accomplishments, while also raising awareness of issues that concern all women of ages, ethnicity, sexual orientation, economic background, and beliefs. Each year in honor of Women's History Month in March, Stanislaus County Commission for Women celebrates the achievements of women and young women through the annual Outstanding Women Awards. This year, we focused our attentions on outstanding young women in our county, and we received a record number of nominations and a class of young women with vast contributions and dedication to Stanislaus County, half of which reside in Modesto. We look forward to announcing this year's cohort of outstanding young women on March 12th. And on behalf of the Stanislaus County Commission of Women, we thank the City of Modesto council members for your recognition of Women's History Month. We appreciate the opportunity to elevate the cause of women in our region. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. Thank you. So, all right, can we do this in 2 minutes? All right, let's go. If you'll join me, council members, we'll take our picture and. I got everything so far. All right, one more minute. Okay, so let me read this. All right, we will go to item 11. which is our public hearing. This is a presentation of recommended council district map from the Citizens Districting Commission and public hearing to receive public input. I will turn the time over to our city attorney, Jose Sanchez, at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, and public, this is actually a very exciting item related to our district maps for the city council. Before I get started, though, I did want to make a comment or a statement. We do have an interpreter. He's on line on Zoom, and I know he does want to make an announcement. Go ahead.
La reunión de esta noche se llevará a cabo simultáneamente en inglés y en español. Todos en la reunión deben elegir un idioma. Si desea seguir escuchando en español, en la base de su pantalla va a haber un botón que dice Interpretation en la barra inferior de la pantalla. Una vez que se abra la ventanilla, seleccione español y luego seleccione Mute Original Audio, que significa que va a silenciar el audio original porque si no va a escuchar los dos idiomas de una vez. Cuando quiera hacer alguna opinión, por favor vaya a la barra inferior y dice Raise Hand. Usted presione ese botón y ese botón le va a indicar a los que están monitoreando el video de que usted quiere hablar y le van a desbloquear su micrófono. Si tiene cualquier pregunta, por favor, utilice el chat, que es otro botón que está en la barra inferior, dice chat. Cuando usted lo presione, se va a abrir una ventanilla y usted puede escribir allí. Y si prefiere hacerlo verbalmente, tiene que poner raise hand, que levante la manito. Gracias. Back to you.
Perfect. Thank you. The item before you, and I know, as stated in the title, this is something that the City of Modesto has been working on for several months since the census data came out late last year, and the census data was out late. I don't want to steal a lot of the thunder of Elizabeth Stitt, who's our demographer from Redistricting Partners, but I do want to say this has been a great process to watch. Every 10 years, the law does state that the cities that have district-based elections, like we do, that we have city councils that have specific districts. As I know, here in the chambers, we do have maps that display kind of different districts. Anybody that's voted here in Modesto knows we have our council members here that represent districts, and the mayor is voted by the entire city. She's at large, the mayor's at-large office. But every 10 years, the law does require that cities look at the census data to make sure that the districts are still proportionally similar with just little deviation. There's also other requirements that our charter places on us. I know the presentation will cover all those, but I'm just very proud to have been part of this process and kind of seeing it here. We've also, and I know again we'll cover this in the presentation, but we did have a number of volunteers, great Citizens Districting Commission of volunteers of our residents that came forward to help during this process and held several public meetings. But with that, I do just want to announce the team we have here. As I mentioned, we have Elizabeth Stitt from Redistricting Partners. She served as our demographer through this process. We have Jessica Nunez from the City Attorney's Office. She took a lead in heading this process and making sure to coordinate with the commission, setting up the meetings, and getting the information out. We also have here Edgar Garcia, who also helped with the meetings. And then I know that on Zoom, we also have the chair of the Citizens Districting Commission, Maria De Anda, who was very active in participating in these meetings and bringing forward this recommendation to the council. With that, Mayor, I will go ahead and have Elizabeth Stitt kind of put up the presentation and walk us through the process of redistricting and where we are now and present the map.
Welcome.
Go ahead and let us know.
Okay, awesome. Well, good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. I had the privilege of aiding the city and the commission throughout this entire process. So I'm thrilled to be here in front of you all tonight to go over what the commission has adopted and given to you all. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking through. So
essentially what is redistricting, why it's important right now, traditional redistricting principles, they're what we use to guide the process, city charter requirements, how we went from community of interest testimony to the draft maps. Then we'll talk about the current districts and the demographics and census data. And then we'll talk about the actual draft maps that we presented to the Citizens Districting Commission and how we landed at the adopted map B3. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what is redistricting? Jose did a great job at summarizing what it essentially is. At its core, it's just effectively equalizing population among districts. So we do this essentially for two important reasons: to ensure that everyone has equal representation, especially considering the 14th Amendment. So how effectively can people actually advocate for themselves? And then, of course, one person, one vote. This comes from a long line of Supreme Court precedent and cases. So essentially, can a person vote in one district and have the same voting power as somebody in a different district? So redistricting really does serve as a way to keep things equal in our democracy. So this is what we used for our traditional redistricting principles. They are used throughout the country. They're here to ensure or to help prevent gerrymanders. So first and foremost, each district has to be relatively equal in size, and we're looking at the U.S. Census Data population when we are determining what is equal. And then each district has to be contiguous. Essentially, that means that it has to be one whole piece and that it's not jumping from one district to another. Then we want to maintain communities of interest. So a definition of a community of interest is it's a group of people, a community, a neighborhood with similar policy concerns and would benefit from being districted or redistricted together. Then we want to follow city census designated place boundaries when practicable. That also includes easy to identify boundaries, so highways, rivers, things like that. And then finally, keep districts compact. So we are trying to avoid those funny looking shapes that people associate with gerrymandering. Next slide. So we are here today essentially because of the Citizens Districting Commission. This was a team of 9 folks, volunteers, who put aside many, many hours to have come up with the map that they have presented to you today. So and quite frankly, it was an honor to work with all of them. They worked immensely well together. And I think that that shows with the quality of the map. Go to the next slide. And then, of course, the City of Modesto has their own charter. So this looks very similar to the traditional redistricting principles, and it builds upon that as well. So you see that each district has to be compact and contiguous, use visible, natural, and man-made features as boundaries. And then we also could not consider political affiliations during the process. We couldn't advantage or disadvantage a party. So again, that is there to ensure that this is a fair and above-board process. Next slide. So we went from community of interest testimony to maps. Because this was a very citizen-heavy process, we made sure to do everything necessary to get information from the public. So testimony online, we got testimony in person, and of course we followed the rules of the road, so all the traditional redistricting principles and city charter that I had just went over. And then we released it to the map, or we released it to the public and to ensure that they had ample time to react to it as well. Let's go to the next slide. So some of the ways that we gathered testimony included outreach hearings. Just like tonight, it's in English and Spanish. We had many meetings in person, but also because of COVID, we had to go online for many of those as well. We had community of interest forms available online for people to fill out. So that was available in English and Spanish as well. And then we had physical maps for people to draw on and deliver testimony that way. And then we had Districtor, which was an online mapping tool that the public had access to and could provide us with their own community of interest maps or districted maps. Next slide. And then just to give you a sense of some of the meetings that we held, this was the COI to map schedule. We actually had many more meetings than that. The commission actually went through a long training process just to get up to speed. So when I said they were dedicated, they were very dedicated to their position. So this was the COI to map schedule. We had outreach hearings. We had the regularly scheduled meetings with the commission where they talked openly about the maps and why they were making those decisions. So we can go, thank you. So this should look very familiar. These are the current lines, and go to the next slide. And then this is the census data that we use to evaluate all of the maps, proposed maps, and the current lines. So you'll see that we separated into two separate data categories. So we have the 2020 census data, and then we have the citizen voting age population data. These serve two different purposes. The census data is there to ensure that we are balancing the population. That is what we are required to use. Citizen voting age population is there to make sure that we are in compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. So, and essentially what that means is if there is a district with a protected class of over 50% of a protected class, then we would have to consider that while drawing lines. Next slide. So you'll see here that the total deviation for the current lines is 7.5. Legally, we have to be under 10%, so the fact that it's at 7.5 actually put us in a very good situation. And the way that we calculate the total deviation is we look at the lowest deviation, so that's the furthest away from the ideal population, and then the highest deviation, and then we add their absolute values. Next slide. So when we were first looking at draft maps, I presented them drafts A, B, and C. So those were our first three maps. And then the commission latched on to map B, and then we made iterations of B. So you'll see B2 and B3. And then, of course, there is a Districtor map that was drawn by a member of the public. But ultimately, the commission did land on B3, and that was a unanimous decision. Next, thank you. So I'll go through the draft maps real fast, just to give you a sense of the logic behind them and where the commission wanted to go. So draft map A was a minimal change map, and you can go to the next slide. So you'll see here, the colors are the current lines, and then the black lines are the proposed map. Very minimal change here, but the commission, while they did not hate this, they wanted to go a different direction. Next, thank you. So draft map C, this would have put the majority of population west of 99 into one district. Next slide. So again, they did not hate this idea, but they preferred the idea of map B better. So there you go. So this, again, you can see it would have moved essentially downtown into District 3. That would have been the biggest change. And next slide. And then here is our Districtor Map. This was submitted by a member of the public. And you'll see that it's not quite contiguous, but the idea here, you'll see that they even put the airport neighborhood in with 2, which is essentially what B wanted to do. So here we have the iterations of map B. It uses major streets and neighborhoods as dividers, but importantly, the commission really wanted the neighborhood, the airport neighborhood in with District 2. So let's go ahead. So here you'll see the first iteration, next slide, and then this is what it looks like with an overlay of the current lines. So it's not too disruptive. It's mostly balancing out a lot of the population. Next slide. And then B2 ensures that the airport neighborhood is in with 2. Next slide. And you'll see this is just a closer look. In order for the airport neighborhood to be with 2, it needed to be contiguous. So that is why we go along, I believe that's Yosemite Boulevard, and goes down into the neighborhood. Next slide. And next slide. So then we get to B3. So essentially this just cleans up some of the lines. So actually we go back to the between 2 and 4. It goes back to its current lines, and then between 6 and 4, it follows Brigmore all the way down. And next slide. So you can see this is what it looks like with the current lines. Next slide. And then the total deviation, we're looking at 5.3. So that is lower than what we currently have of 7.5. Now we'll just quickly go through each district. So here we have District 1. You can see in the bottom, it'll tell you all the population deviation and citizen voting age population data. And next slide. And then this is District 2. So this was previously a district that had a CVAP Latino population of over 50%, and it was important that we didn't take that away. So you'll see that, again, in this circumstance, it is over 50%. And next slide. And here's District 3. Next slide. 4, 5, and 6. And just as a reminder to folks, if anybody wants to see all of this data, it is available online, just like it has been during this entire process. It's also available in Spanish. And next slide. So what's next? So tonight, hopefully, this is a chance for you to ask questions, to discuss the map. You essentially have 2 steps forwards or ways forward. You can send it back to the commission if there's an issue with the map that you think needs to be fixed, or you can go forward potentially on March 8th and approve the map to use for the next 10 years. So now is your chance to make comments and open it up to the public as well for their opinions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. At this time, are there any questions from council members? Okay. Councilmember Wright?
I have a question. On District 6 and District 5, is Briggsmore, District 6 comes down off of Roselle into Lakewood, and then it goes east on Orangeburg. is that now the new line going to be Briggsmore all the way down to Claus?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
then it will veer south and pick up Copper Creek area, everything that would be east of Claus. Between,
For which district?
for District 6.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's hard to tell on the map on where the streets are.
I
so
know,
I'm just-
the larger map over there is clearer.
Yeah, I can't see it from
I
here,
know.
so.
It's great. All right, any
Thank
other
you.
questions from council members? Councilmember Madrigal?
Thank you for your presentation. Could you back up to the slide that had the overlay of, you know, the proposed lines with the current lines that are, shows, you know, the color, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Absolutely. We can pull that up. So that should be B3 with the overlay.
I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's that one. So, I was just curious about that little upper right-hand District 2 red corner that's that
Mhm.
it looks like it's gonna now be included in, is there, can you zoom in on that? Is there any way you can zoom in on that to show? I'm saying this more, I want this just to highlight this more for the members of the public if possible, to just show, you know, which little corner of the neighborhood, if you will,
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, what the districts?
Okay, maybe that one, but then. I just want to be able just to highlight, just speaking from experience, you know, when I was out knocking on doors, talking to voters in that area, there were some folks that were just outside of those lines. Looks like they're now going to be included, and like, I mean, there was like this one senior voter who was like really upset that my name wasn't on her ballot, and I had to explain, I'm sorry, you're not in my district, and I think I might be able to still look her up and be like, looks like you're now going to be included. So, just thank you for indulging me. I just, it's these moments that stick with you, and then, you know, we fast forward to this moment where, oh wow, maybe something can be done about it.
That's great.
So it's not right there? Is it right there? Is this the one we're talking about?
I think it might be that area just.
Looks
yeah,
like it's to the left more, no? If you're looking at it. Oh, no, I think it is. I think you're right. I think it is that. So, you know what? I'll probably just have to follow up with you offline afterwards, but,
And
thanks for.
We do have URL links available
Mhm.
where, after this I can,
Yeah,
zoom in and look specifically at an area.
Yeah, I've been on the website, and I've zoomed in, and I just want to take a closer look at this part. Thank you anyways for indulging me.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this agenda item? Oh, sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. I'm sorry, Councilmember Canoyer. I did not see your hand up. Yes, please go ahead.
Probably because of my bald head. No, that's okay. The thing I noticed about this, the new map, is that the lines are more distinct. In the old map, they kind of, in my district, there was a couple of places that kind of jerry-rigged around some of the areas where you took in a couple of blocks here and a couple of, so to me, this map looks really good because it has distinct lines like Briggsmore and, Tully and lines like that. So I really like the way they cleaned up the borders on every district.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any other council members with questions at this time? Seeing none, any members of the public that would like to comment on item 11? Seeing none, any comments from, well, you know what? Did you notice, Dana, in these cards, if there was anyone?
I believe most of those cards are for item 13.
Okay, all right. I did not look at every single one for, but I think you're all here. So if there's no one commenting from the public, that's great. Any comments from council members? Councilmember Ricky.
I just wanted to thank the committee for all their hard work on this. I know that they all worked really, really hard and spent quite a bit of time going through all these different districts and trying to just figure out the best ways to adjust the districts for everybody. And I'm just really pleased with the work they did, and I just want to thank you for your service. I know Jose spent quite a bit of time trying to put together a really good committee, and it came across really well, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zalaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Much the same conversation. I appreciate the work that the committee did. I can tell you put a lot of time in it. I can tell that you analyzed what was done, what you were doing, and I agree with what Councilmember Knoyer just said. At least in my district, it's a lot more precise and easier to follow, and it just worked, with the exception of one thing, and that's Copper Creek. It went to District 1 or 6. That shouldn't be in 6. It should be in 4, but it couldn't be in a better district. I'm actually kidding. It's fine. It was done well. Thank you very much for all your hard work.
I too would like to express my appreciation to everyone on the committee and staff that spent so much time on this. When I was on the school board, we changed from an at-large district to voting districts also from the beginning of the process. So I was much more involved in that, so I recognize fully the amount of time and effort that people give. And as was mentioned, our community members were volunteers, and I think that it just speaks one more time to the most incredible residents that we have in this community that are willing to give of their time over and over and over. We have dozens of committees that people serve on, and they're committed to our community. So I thank you all so much. Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Knoyer.
Yes, I just want to add to what you said that I think this committee did an exceptional job, spent, going over everything, and as quickly as I could look at it, it looked really well balanced. And if nobody else is going to make a motion, I would like to make a motion.
Okay. Hold on. We still have a couple more comments from council members, but I will take note of your motion.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Madrigal, did you have another comment? Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to add my praise to the chorus, say thank you to the commission, the committee, for your work on this. I can imagine, when you first started, some of you were probably thinking, this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to figure out how do we shape the districts that are going to be representing the city of Modesto for the next 10 years and shape them for the better, so that we make sure that everyone's voice is heard. And it takes data, so I thank the data people. That's what I call you, the data folks, for all your work. And I thank the committee for the hours that you all put into this, because this is about shaping the kind of Modesto that we want to have. And it takes, the first step for us is shaping the districts of the council members that are elected to represent the people that live in those communities and in those districts. And so it's no easy task, and so for those reasons, I just wanted to add my thanks to the chorus of appreciation.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ricky, did you have a comment? No, you already made.
You already called on me.
All right. How about, apparently we have Maria here. Is that correct, Deanda? Who served as the chair of the Citizens District Commission? Oh, on Zoom. Would you like to make a comment?
Sure. It was time consuming, but it was very interesting. I have never had an opportunity to participate in a city venture like this, so it was very enlightening. And I'd like to thank also the staff members who did an excellent job. We were extremely prepared because of them.
Thank you very much for your comment and for your time. This will not require a motion this evening because this was a public hearing, and it's just for us to consider this adoption, which will happen at the next meeting on March 8th of 2022. So thank you very much for your comments and for everyone for participating. I see that Diane Creasy has her hand raised also, and she also served on the committee. Do you have a comment, Diane?
I just want to thank, I agree with Maria, that the staff people that were helping us were great, and without them, I don't think we could have accomplished what we did. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane, for your participation. All right. Next, we will go on to our acknowledgements and presentations. Item 3, presentation of proclamation in honor of Golden Valley Health Center's 50th anniversary. I will read the proclamation. Honoring Golden Valley Health Centers on their 50th anniversary. Golden Valley Health Centers began serving the Central Valley in the city of Merced in 1972. And Golden Valley Health Center's team of doctors, dentists, behavioral health counselors, and other medical professionals and their teams are committed to providing quality health care services regardless of language, financial, or cultural barriers. And Golden Valley Health Centers is a federally qualified health center that provides medical, dental, behavioral health, and specialties to over 150,000 patients in Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin counties at their 45 locations. And Golden Valley Health Centers has been certified as an advocacy center of excellence by the National Association of Health Centers, which is a community health center that creates a culture of advocacy to ensure that policymakers at all levels of government commit to investing in affordable, equitable, and innovative health care that health centers provide. And Golden Valley Health Centers is celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2022. Now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor of the City of Modesto, do hereby present this proclamation to Golden Valley Health Centers in honor of their 50th anniversary and encourage all residents to join me in this worthy observance, dated this first day of March, 2022. This evening, we have Yamilet Valladolid, MPH, Director of Government and Community Affairs of Golden Valley Health Centers, to accept the proclamation. Would you like to step up, and do you have some comments to make? Okay, thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce our Vice President and Chief of Communications, Amy Carroll, as well, who's here with me to accept the proclamation.
All right. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yamilet. Just a few words because you covered it so well. Golden Valley Health Center has been around for 50 years, and we're really, really proud of the longevity in the community. And while it sounds like a long time, in a rapidly changing world, Golden Valley Health Center's focus has not wavered since that time. We were born out of a strong desire to increase access to health care in the lives of migrant workers who, as you know, toil to sustain our largely agricultural economy. In 1962, when then President John F. Kennedy signed the Migrant Health Act, federal funds were authorized to open community migrant centers that would provide care for this critical farm worker population. It was later mandated that these centers make their services accessible to all who need them. We felt that way from the start and never denied services to a patient in need. The ideology that everyone should have access to healthcare has been central to the work of Golden Valley over the past 5 decades and remains our guiding principle today. As we see the need for services growing in our community, we plan to continue pacing that need for smart growth. We partner with local government, community-based organizations, education, and health plans to ensure top-notch services are provided to those who need us. So thank you for your recognition tonight, your proclamation, and your support in our community.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And if the council members would join me, we would like to present you with this proclamation. So next is our public comment period. This is for items that are not on the council agenda. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? And you have 3 minutes. All right, I see online Stephen Allen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I just wanted to use this teeny tiny bit of time that you are allotting me to express my concern about a couple of issues affecting our community. One, I know you guys, there's a lot of talk about affordable housing in our community, and I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that what affordable housing needs to mean is that the average schmo in our community can live under a roof and have stability so that they can live their life and thrive and be happy. The amount of money that it takes to even have a home is insane. Rent has gone up so much. And if we go by the standard that you have to make 3 times the rent, that basically means that the majority of us don't have a right to live, don't have a right to exist and subside inside of a shelter where it's safe, where we can, you know, take a shower and go to work in the morning, etc. So I just want to encourage you guys to embrace a definition of affordable housing that is not centered on the top, you know, the higher income portions of our community. I'm just some random dude. I don't have thousands of dollars to donate to people in power in my town. I'm not a developer. I'm not rich, but I have a right to have a home, and I have a right to be able to pay my rent with like the job that I can get. The other thing I'm very concerned about, a lot of us are aware that there is a trend in our entire country, far right fascist and proto-fascist hate groups have been given a green light in many incidences to go ahead and commit acts of violence to anyone that stands up for what is right. One example, obviously, is Donald Trump. He basically, you know, just gave all the far-right hate groups in our country the green light to just go ahead and do whatever the hell they want. Locally here, you guys passed a rule saying I can't protect my cranium if I stand up for Black lives in my town. That's disgusting. a lot of you might be aware that just recently someone was murdered in Portland, Oregon. 5 people were hospitalized. The murderer was known for being upset about people in his neighborhood and in his town standing up for equality. He was basically encouraged by a lot of public figures to act out. And I just want to send love and respect for June Knightley, who is no longer with her friends and family. And I want to encourage the leadership of this town to make a stand and stop encouraging far-right hate groups. Our chief of police can't even come out and say, no, we don't have Proud Boys on our police force. He still has not clarified that. So a lot of us are like kind of tempted just to assume that means that they're in league with them, which would be consistent with a lot of the practices we have seen. And this is not acceptable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Ramon Rodriquez.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I agree with Steve Allen about the far right and everything. As a reminder of last year's practice with the Proud Boys in council meeting, also the Straight Pride, which they've been doing since 2019, and it got so much violent and they wanted to show force that they don't want a tolerant and inclusive Modesto. I think what leadership needs to do now is, if Don Groman and his ilk wants to spread hate and intolerance in our community, you should stand up and tell them that they can't use their hate propaganda to spread around the city, and to tell them Modesto is inclusive and will do whatever it takes to protect the LGBTQ community, the marginalized, and people who are not the status quo, heteronormative, straight white Christian male. And also on another topic, I was at the Forward Care meeting last week, and I was shocked about the statistics about the juvenile harassment in Modesto's police statistics report. 61% of juvenile arrests are Latinx, compared to 21% of white juveniles. This is proof that a prison industrial complex is alive. The school prison pipeline is going on, and to reduce this, and they've been talking about how to reduce the disparities for arrest. The most we can do now is start investing in programs, for youth programs, the day programs, after school programs for these groups, because it'll help them not to fall into crime or be arrested, but to invest in our youth. You need to start showing commitment to our youth to invest, because they are our future. And without youth, there will not be a future for our community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Darlene Ruiz.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor Sue. I'm calling again to ask for a Trevor Seaver Day. Next month, Trevor would have been 31 years old. Last week, Oakland City Council members granted a dedication to the late Oscar Grant for his birthday on February 27th. And I'm asking our city to please consider having a Trevor Seaver Day in honor of Trevor. I also agree with Steve about our housing in Modesto. There's so many homeless people, and what they're asking for rent, and what 2 people working full-time can't even find a home to rent. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time for items not on the agenda? Oh, sure. Please step forward.
There's actually 2 of us, and what I'd like to do, my name is Richard Navarro, and I want to thank the City Council and you, Mayor, for my understanding that you are going to be giving a moment of silence for Ukraine. That means a lot to us who are members of Modesto Sister City. I've been president of Modesto Sister City and vice president, and right now I'm chair of our sister city in Ukraine, Khmelnytsky. I would also like to recognize Sergei Samborsky and his son, Felix, who will be speaking after me. In 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower started Sister City organization as a nonprofit and non-political. So we are here as a non-political organization. I want to recognize one of our founding fathers of the city relationship between Ukraine and Modesto. He's my personal hero, which is Gene Paulsgrove. I don't know if you folks know him, but he actually started this when the Iron Curtain was still up. He went to Khmelnytsky under the stress of being arrested. He met with the mayor of Khmelnytsky at that time, Mayor Bukol, who was also threatened that if he met with this American, he would be arrested and possibly disappeared, because that was the thing. One of the greatest things, I've visited Ukraine on 3 different occasions, and we're not vacationing, because we're in people's homes, we're being active. But one of the greatest visits was to be able to visit the Ukrainian veterans of war. What was amazing, and I can still picture that in my mind, is to look at their eyes, to see an American, a U.S. citizen, and someone from their sister city. It meant so much. They were jubilant. Their eyes spoke droves as far as what they were feeling. I may not be Ukrainian, but I'll tell you, nobody leaves Ukraine without being affected by their love, their traditions, their warmthness, their sense of humor. I'm asking all of you in this city and our citizens to be brave, just like Gene Paulsgrove. I would like for us to consider a proclamation of support so that we can send it to their mayor. We may not understand what impact it would have, but during time of war, for someone to reach out and say, I'm with you, means a lot. I want to thank you for your time, and I would like to ask Sergei to give a little impression, because he is from Khmelnytsky, and if his son would like to join him, that would be great too.
Right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes. Jim, who's also a member of our board, he's just wanted me to mention Open World. We have been doing this for almost a decade, bringing Ukrainian businessmen. Bill Salaki has had the honor of joining us on this. This year, because of war, it has been canceled, so it's sad, but they really look up to us for guidance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Dear Mayor, dear City Council members, dear public, I feel very bad standing with my back to you, so I would say, excuse my back. But I would like to thank all of you on behalf of the Ukrainian people. If I break down, excuse me, okay?
Sure.
It's hard, but honestly, if not for our people-to-people diplomacy, as Gene Paulsgrove started and Mayor Mensinger continued so wonderfully for many years, and what we have been doing. If you want to know how old our sister city relationship is with Khmelnytsky and Modesto, look at my son. He is 34. He was born in 1987. And in 1987, the first visit was made to Khmelnytsky, and the mayor, Bukol, was ordered by the Communist Party leaders at that time to leave the city on the excuse of having to attend some conference or meeting outside, but he stayed. So I would like to thank you all on behalf of the citizens of Khmelnytsky, my hometown on behalf of all Ukrainians, because we've been in touch all the time. I lived here 30 years. Thank you for making this wonderful city a home to me, my son, and my American wife, who is a sixth-generation Californian. And I would also like to quickly mention, to add something to what Richard Navarro said, that Ukraine, at the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991, was in the possession of the second largest nuclear arsenal. And they gave it up, and there were many American specialists who were helping to dismantle the 30 nuclear silos facing west, including the east coast of the United States. So that whole has been done. What we did on one of our trips years ago, we, with the help of Mayor Khmelnytsky, we found the leftovers from the intercontinental ballistic missiles aimed at the east coast of the United States. And we built a monument to peace using those broken leftovers from the nuclear bombs. So just would like to thank you all. Yesterday, my aunt turned 84 on February 29th. So she's very young. She's younger than I am. Yesterday, I called her, taking a break from my teaching. I called her and I sang to her happy birthday. And she was very touched. And then she said, you know, in my 84 years of life, I've never had such celebration with so many salutes and fireworks. So she opened the window in Kiev, flipped the camera. She's 85, she's very savvy when it comes to technology. And she showed me the fireworks in Kiev, you know, trace bullets, missiles flying, several buildings destroyed around, and lots of fire around with lots of smoke. So I really appreciated her strong spirit, her resilience, and her sense of humor under such circumstances after she spent 3 days in the bomb shelter, and the past 2 nights she slept in the corridor of the apartment building, because it is dangerous to sleep in your bedroom because there are windows there. So that's, I just wanted to thank you for your support, everybody. I know we all pay taxes, and a big part of these taxes go to support democracy around the world, but that's how we make ourselves here safe as well, because we don't have idiots like Putler, that's how we call him, not Putin, but Putler, and for whom Ukraine became the bastion that doesn't allow him to reach the allies of the United States and threaten them directly. So I thank you very much, and I would like to say thank you to you, and thank you in support of this idea of the proclamation of support. It is really, really important. And number one country in the world that Ukrainians always mention, who allowed them to still sustain and survive, is the United States, as you know well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
God bless
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments from members of the public for items not on the agenda? I do not see any online or in person. So next, we will go on to consent items. Will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Yes, Mayor. Item 4, consider approving the minutes from the February 8th, 2022 council meeting. Item 5, consider approving a will serve letter and outside service agreement for sewer services for the property located at 792 Cadoni Avenue. Item 6, consider approving an agreement for an analysis of emergency dispatch service options with Mission Critical Partners for an amount of $156,741 with an 8% contingency of $12,539 for a total amount not to exceed $169,280. Item 7, consider accepting an informational report for the January 2022 Accounts Payable Payment Register and Void Report. Item 8, consider accepting the monthly investment report for December 2021. Item 9, consider approving the requirements for annual training of certain City of Modesto employees and officials regarding municipal disclosure responsibilities. And item 10 has been removed from the agenda.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve consent calendar. except,
Second.
Consent item number 10.
All right, I had a motion from Councilmember Madrigal here and a second from Councilmember Zalaki.
Actually, she can have it.
Well, pardon me?
Oh, I was gonna say, she can have it if you like.
That's all right. I heard you first, so I'll go with you this time. Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright? Aye. Mayor Zwellen?
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Do any of the council members have any comments and reports?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a comment.
All right, Councilmember Wright, or Vice Mayor Wright, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that our hearts are with people over in Ukraine and what's going on there. And freedom is not free. You have to fight for freedom almost all the time. So our prayers are with that community, especially our sister city.
Thank you, Councilmember Zalaki.
Yeah, I'm going to start out this with a little history lesson. I am half Ukrainian, and I've studied a little bit of the history of the Ukraine. A lot of people don't realize the size of that country and what's happened in the last couple of centuries in that area of Ukraine. But as we go through this, I'm going to conclude with I'd like to put on the agenda exactly what they asked for, that we send a letter of support from our city to the Ukraine and to Kamensky. So here's what goes on. People don't even know this. That's what's frustrating. The terror and the amount of death and genocide that's occurred in the Ukraine. And it started with a guy named Stalin. And he wanted to collective and create collectives of all the rich farmlands that are in the Ukraine. And he went there to take them over and take them from the people of the Ukraine. And they refused to leave, so he starved them by keeping the seeds that they needed to plant, to grow, to feed themselves. And about 13 million over a process of about 2 or 3 years. I wish our Ukrainian people were here because they would reiterate this. They know the history. We don't know it in our country. It's been concealed from us. A guy named Walter Durante from the New York Times was primarily involved in Russia and Ukraine, a reporter over there, and he denied it happened. But about 13 million people were starved. 13 million people. And so then along comes World War II, and Hitler comes in as Stalin's trying to do whatever he can with what's left of the Ukraine. And Hitler comes in, the Ukrainian people think, oh, we can side with him. He's against Stalin. What they found out was Hitler then realized, oh, half of them are gone or more, or whatever the number was, and he killed millions more. By the time it's all was done, after Hitler and Stalin and then Stalin after Hitler was run out of there, went after it again. 20 million people. It's documented in a book by Robert Chambers, a great researcher, in a book called The Great Terror. And he documents that what happened. It started in a book in 1990, and when the wall fell down, he went over there and researched more and updated that 20 million people were starved and brutalized or shot, as Hitler was doing, in the Ukraine, because they happen to want to love their country. They're free people. They want to have a democracy. They love our country, and we don't know what they've gone through. That's why if you're watching on TV and you see how they're unified, they've been through this. This doesn't need to happen again. The death in the Ukraine needs to stop now, and it needs to never happen again to that country. They're not just pawns for Russia and other countries to go in and destroy and take their lands and cause for their own expansions. It needs to stop, and the world is hearing it this time because the cameras are running and people are seeing it. And so I make that motion, if we can, however we can do
Second.
that we come out and write a letter, at least of support of Ukraine and the people of Ukraine for their freedom in their country. They've lost a third of it already in the Crimea invasion. It'd be nice for them to get that back as a consolation prize of defeating Putin, because the world is against him. One man is standing alone largely, and we need to stay locked in step saying he's got to be defeated. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ricky, did you have a comment?
But point of order?
Okay, Councilmember Madrigal?
Madam Mayor, I heard a motion and I'm happy to second.
Right, and I have heard from several other people regarding this idea that we go forward with the proclamation. So I think that, I don't know if we require a motion to do that at this moment in time. It's not on the agenda,
Yeah,
but certainly it's something that, you know, we can go through the process.
So,
Okay, so, right. Would you like to explain how we should best proceed with this?
And Mayor, I know you've been discussing this as well, Mayor. I know that this was something that the mayor has been talking with the city manager about to bring it forward. Mayor, you could either take the motion and the second and vote, or make the announcement if that's even needed, if it's already in the works.
Sure. All right.
It's really up to you in the process, Mayor.
All right, sure. I'll take the motion from Councilmember Zalaki. We have a second from Councilmember Madrigal. Why don't we have a
Thank you,
vote
Councilman.
to put this on the agenda? Would you like to call the roll?
Yeah.
From the city clerk?
Sorry, let me just write that down. So Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. So that carries unanimously. Thank you. Is there any, should I go to the public about that agenda item? Okay. I have Councilmember Canoyer also that would like to speak. Why don't we hear from you first?
Well, I am going along with, I really think it's really important that we do send a letter of support, especially to our sister city. But I have a little comment I want to make separate from that.
All right, would you like to do that now?
Oh, okay. Since we are showing concern for, I think we need to show concern for our council member, Mayor Rosa Escutia Braden, who is with her mother, who apparently is in the final moments of her life. And I just want us to say that we're all behind her, our prayers, and I just pray that it's very peaceful end for her mother.
Thank you, Councilmember Canoyer. Councilmember Ricky, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. So our sister city, I just want to talk a little about Ukraine. Our sister city has a population of 300,000 people. It's a similar size to Modesto. It's 6,000 miles away from us, but it's just hard to imagine that a couple days ago, on the first day of the Russian invasion, they had declared martial law. All men ages 18 to 60 are required to join the military to defend the country. Everybody else is out making Molotov cocktails, to try to stop the Russian advance. I mean, this is real stuff. The rest, are making their way to the border with their children, just trying to seek refuge. So it's hard to believe that something like this can kind of happen in this day and age. It's tragic. It's unacceptable. To the people of Magnitsky, Modesto stands with you, and Modesto stands with Ukraine.
Thank you. Any other comments or reports from council members? Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo the sentiments of solidarity with the people of Ukraine and this tragic, unnecessary war that they're going through. I just want to say also in Spanish, estamos en solidaridad con la gente de Ucrania. We're in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. I wanted to specifically just, I'm not going to make a motion, just ask, as staff prepares the letter that's going to be coming forward, if it's not already in the works, if it's possible to also bring forward a resolution of support and solidarity so that we as a council can vote on that as well. And And then if it is at all infrastructurally, I guess, possible, to have our city facilities lit up in the colors of the Ukrainian flag, as has been done in other cities, across this country. Most recent example I could think of is Long Beach. And so I think those type of actions demonstrating our solidarity speak volumes. So I'm just going to make that request. I don't know if it's at all possible for staff to try to carry something like that out, or maybe it's as simple as, changing out a few light bulbs to, the blue and the gold yellow color, if you will. I'm daring to think out loud here with you all and think outside the box, and so I hope that's okay. A couple other items I wanted to discuss. I want to thank staff for getting back to me regarding community concerns about the Crow's Landing Road project and the impact that the traffic has had on families trying to pick up their kids from school, specifically, like, say, Shackelford School. So I heard complaints about traffic being backed up. I know this is a project that is temporary, but it has had a severe impact on the traffic in the South Modesto community and their quality of life. Specifically, they were requesting more public notice, more public information on traffic flows, if things can be posted, say, for example, on the South Modesto digital billboard that's at the corner of Crow's Landing and Hatch Road, things like that, to tell people which website to go to get updates, other signage, and I think a staff responded back to me that they're also trying to work with Caltrans, see what we can do about the closure of the on-ramp going northbound on 99 from Crow's Landing Road. And so I appreciate the response. Community is asking for more information, more noticing, just getting the word out about what they can expect and what the timeline is for that construction project in South Modesto. A couple other things I wanted to ask, follow up on. I asked for a report to the city of Modesto, to the city council, on the status of video surveillance cameras in our hotspot, illegal trash dumping hotspots, areas where there's frequent illegally dumped trash in Modesto that makes our neighborhoods look horrible. And what we got was a report at the Safety and Communities Committee. I'm just going to reiterate, I really would like this council to receive, this full council to receive an update. It can just be a quick update, a quick PowerPoint presentation, the same presentation on what is the status of video surveillance cameras. I don't understand why it needs to be only presented at a committee level instead of at the council level, as is requested, especially for the benefit of the public who, can also attend or zoom in on our on our council meetings. And so I'm just going to put that request out there, and I'm going to keep bringing it up. I don't think it's if the staff presentation was already made at the Safety and Communities Committee, then it's just a matter of scheduling it for a future council meeting as a quick update. The other thing I wanted to request an update on is what is the status of the Cannabis program that I raised a few council meetings ago, that was discussed and as a possible project by the Modesto Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Modesto. They are trying to do a creative cannabis tourism initiative to help increase our tax revenue in the city of Modesto by increasing more canna tourism. That is actually a thing. It's an industry. And so to that effect, I'd like to request once again that we receive a quick update on what is the status of the Cannabis program that the Visit Modesto organization is doing. Maybe it's just as simple as inviting them to give us a presentation of what the Cannabis program entailed. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any other council comments or reports? All right, I don't see any hands raised online or in person. Thank you very much. Does the city manager have any comments and reports? Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is hearings, and we will go to item 12, a public hearing to consider expanding the role of the Cannabis Permit Review Committee and renaming it to be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee, an ordinance amending section 10-3.704, application and permit procedures of the Modesto Municipal Code, an ordinance amending section 2-1.18, standing committees of the Modesto Municipal Code to include the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee as a standing committee of the city, and associated resolution making these changes and rescinding resolution number 2021-132. And I will turn this over to, City Attorney Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, members of the council, I do apologize. We had some technical difficulties with the PowerPoint, so I'll just describe the item. It sounds a lot more complicated than what it is, given that there's 2 ordinances and 1 resolution. But the gist of this item, really the purpose of the item, is to expand the role of the Cannabis Permit Review Committee. Currently, the City of Modesto does have a cannabis program. Under the ordinance that established the cannabis program, it also established a Cannabis Permit Review Committee, which the purpose of that review committee is to review non-dispensary and non-delivery permits for businesses coming forward, and they have the authority to approve those permits at that committee. Those do not come to the city council like the dispensary permits do. In discussing this with staff and in seeing kind of how the program's going, there's a need to discuss the cannabis program itself. And have that potentially go to a subcommittee. And the discussion was, well, we do have subcommittees of the council. It would serve a good purpose for this subcommittee to also review more than just permits, but also just questions or issues that come up with the cannabis program itself. The items before you, really the 1 ordinance amends your current cannabis ordinance to just change the name of the subcommittee from Cannabis Permit Review Committee to now the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee, in order to have that official title and expanded role. The other ordinance, what it does is your current municipal code has a list of standing subcommittees that the council serves, like the Finance Committee, Economic Development Committee, Safety and Communities Committee. This would be adding this committee to that list in your municipal code, just making it formal, having folks be able to go to the municipal code and it being very clear of what subcommittees the council has and serves on. Lastly, the resolution actually, I want to say, edits or fixes or expands the previous resolution that the council adopted in April of last year, establishing this committee. It goes ahead and amends it or rescinds it and applies a new one, changing the name of the committee like we discussed, but also now it does have, and I'll just go ahead and read, the committee shall monitor and review the state's efforts to promulgate cannabis-related laws and regulations and make recommendations to the city council for the adoption of city laws and regulations pertaining to cannabis-related activity in the city, as well as make recommendations regarding any other cannabis program-related matter. Then it also has all the duties that it currently holds from the municipal code, which is the review and the authority to approve non-dispensary and non-delivery cannabis permits. And Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Are there any council members that have questions regarding this item? Councilmember Ritchie, do you have a question? All right. Councilmember Madrigal?
So if you could just clarify, so for example, we have 8 dispensaries that currently have licenses in Modesto, and I think, for example, I think they're going to be expiring, reaching their 2-year expiration date this December. So you're saying this new current committee that will now have this expanded role, they will be reviewing, for example, the renewal process, or they will be overseeing the renewal process should those current dispensaries want to renew their permits? I'm assuming they would.
Well, it is set up to be like a similar standing committee. The renewals, and I know that Jalen French is here, but the renewals usually would come to council for approval. Now you have a subcommittee to hear all cannabis-related programs. The renewal could go to the subcommittee just for review and recommendation to the city council. But pursuant to the ordinance, it's the city council that issues those permits and issues the renewals.
So that's a no?
Well, your question was whether they would review them. Yes, they can review them. Now, if you're asking, are they the approval body?
No,
They're
no.
not.
So for example, they would review, the applications for renewal and then make a recommendation to the full council?
Correct.
All right, just wanted to clarify that.
All right, any other questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public regarding item 12? I'm looking through the blue cards, and they look like I do not see anyone for item 12. All right, back to the council for comment. Sorry, Jenny Canoyer. I saw your head
Yes.
tilted, sorry.
That's okay. My question is there are 10 dispensaries that we approved, but only approved 8 to open up. Now, this new standing committee, are they going to have the authority to add these 2 that have come through the other committee they met all the requirements, but we decided only to open up 8 instead of 10.
And Mayor, if I may.
Go right ahead.
So, Councilmember Canoyer, good question. That question is answered, would be the decision of the city council as a whole, because the city council issues the permits for dispensaries. Now, if the subcommittee heard the item and they could provide a recommendation to the city council, but it would not be the subcommittee's sole decision, or they would not be making the decision of what to do with those permits. The dispensary permits, as far as issuing, that's the council's decision, the city council as a whole.
Now, and I have one more question that just came to mind.
Go ahead.
Since these 2 committees, these 2 dispensaries were not allowed to open up, if they apply, or, does their permits expire like the dispensaries that were allowed to open up? Are the amount of money that they put into it stays? They don't have to repeat it, if I make myself clear.
No, and completely understood. Now, that's starting to go a little bit away from the item at hand. Right now, all this item is doing is expanding the role of the subcommittee itself, not really dealing with the dispensaries and what to do with the permits during this item. But we could definitely look into that, council member, and get an answer to you.
I think I would appreciate that, and I think the 2 dispensaries would probably appreciate it also. I know I diverted away from it, but kind of it's a good time to ask.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any other comments from council members? Seeing none at this time. Oh, Councilmember Madrigal.
So just as a follow-up, when can we as a council determine that it's time to reopen the application process, for example, for the 2 remaining licenses? Is that something that the committee can discuss and make a recommendation to the full council on, or do we have to deliberate about that as a full council?
And I mean, I can defer to the city manager, but I would think that if that's a topic that the council is interested in, or council members are interested in, that would go to that subcommittee for discussion with a recommendation to the council as a whole. So that could be placed on that agenda in order to discuss and bring back for recommendation.
All right, thank you. This will be 3 separate votes. So I need a motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending section 10-3.704, application and permit procedures of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 10, commercial cannabis uses of the Modesto Municipal Code, to rename the Cannabis Permit Committee to be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee in order to capture the standing committee's new expanded role. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Ricky. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Councilmember Canoyer. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Carries unanimously. The next is a motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending section 2-1.18, standing committees of the Modesto Municipal Code to include the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee as a standing committee of the city. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Madrigal. Second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Ricky. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Carries unanimously. The third is a resolution approving expanding the role of the Cannabis Permit Review Committee and renaming it to be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee and rescinding resolution number 2021-132. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Canoyer. I'll make the second. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much for your report. Next is new business, item 13. Consider an ordinance adding Article 7, local hiring preferences in public works contracts, and Article 8, utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts to Title 8, Chapter 3 of the Modesto Municipal Code. And at this time, I will turn this over to our city attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, the item before you is a resolution amending your municipal code to, if adopted, to amend the code to add two different articles to Title 8, Chapter 3 of the municipal code. One related to local hire preference in public works contracts, and the other related to utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts. Now, these are two different concepts. They are under one ordinance as far as for adoption purposes, but I will be, when presenting, we will go ahead and present them separately since they are different articles in the municipal code and work independently as well from each other. Today, I also have Will Wong. He's here, Utilities Director, who's also has been participating in creating this ordinance and drafting for council consideration. Also from my office, Palmer Hilton, who's also been working on this ordinance as well. Go ahead, next slide, please. The first component of the ordinance, again, you remember the ordinance does have two different components. It has a local hire preference component and a skilled workforce component. We'll go ahead and cover the local hire preference, the requirements of this article. Next slide, please. There's a delay in the PowerPoint. Why don't I go ahead and I'll keep going while the PowerPoint catches up. So when we're looking at this ordinance, what's the goal? What's the purpose of this component, which is the component of the local hire? Well, statistics have indicated, and as we look at it, and staff has researched the statistics, that unemployment in the city of Modesto has generally been higher than in the state of California as a whole. The council often has received requests of, can you make local hire? Can you make it a requirement? Can you require certain companies coming in that they hire local residents? I know it's come up at the city council, at several meetings where council members have asked, is there a way to have more local hire? Well, this ordinance, I'll go through the requirements. I should start with letting folks know that both components are really good faith effort components. They're not actual requirements to meet a certain percentage, but it's a good faith, and it has a requirement in order to comply with that good faith. The local hire portion of it, the local hire preference portion of it, does require contractors that are bidding or doing work under public contracts as defined under the code, such as construction contracts, to make a good faith effort to comprise at least 25% of their total workforce performed under these contracts for qualified individuals who are local residents. Next slide, please. As far as the good faith effort, what it applies to, well, it does have a threshold. This requirement of performing a good faith effort by contractors does not apply to contracts that only applies to contracts 500,000 and over. If it's under, it does not apply. This is not an additional step that contractors that are awarded a contract would need to do. Good faith effort is not required in the following circumstances. There are also exceptions that we looked at in order to have flexibility with different contracts that are coming up. When the state or federal law or grant conditions prohibit it, sometimes we do look at different grants that are required by the state that may have certain requirements that may prohibit an extra hurdle like this. When the city determines a suitable pool of local residents does not exist for certain contracts, and when the contract is necessary to respond to an emergency, when time is of the essence that something like this, and we'll go over what good faith means, we don't have time for. Now, good faith effort, what does it mean? Now, I've talked about good faith effort, and it's not just simply, you know what, I made a good faith effort. There are actual requirements that would be on a contractor. The good faith effort under this ordinance, the contractor must contact local recruitment sources to identify qualified individuals who are local residents. They also have to advertise for qualified individuals who are local residents in trade papers and newspapers of general circulation, like the Modesto Bee, or advertise via electronic means is also permitted. We know that sometimes getting something in the paper could be a little more time-consuming, maybe more costly. We do have that option in the ordinance itself. And they also have to identify any subcontractors as well that do use local residents. Next slide, please. Now, what is a local resident? When you look at different ordinances and from different jurisdictions, they sometimes have the definition of local. They could have it, combined 3 counties, for example, that are next to each other. When we looked at this and talking with staff, we decided to propose to the council and have a proposal of the draft ordinance just really having local resident mean from Stanislaus County. A little more, now the percentage goes down to 25% as far as the goal. I guess if we would have had 3 counties, 4 counties that are next to each other, it could have gone higher. Other jurisdictions are looking at, higher percentages, 60, 70%, 75%. We wanted at least a good faith effort of a goal that we believe was very achievable. And these are the tools as far as the definition of good faith in order to go ahead and try to achieve that. Again, I'd like to stress that it's still just a goal, the 25%, and it's also, we're talking about a good faith effort. Next slide, please. Now, the ordinance would require that when a contractor, for example, gets in part of their bid packet that they submit, they would sign an affidavit saying, yes, I will comply with the good faith effort. Now, as far as the good faith effort goes, and we will be working, if the council adopts this ordinance, with our purchasing manager in order to be very clear for contractors. What does it mean to comply with good faith effort? I'd like to stress again, good faith effort does not mean you have to hire 25% of local residents, but it means you would have to do those things as far as contact different labor folks that have the residents available. You would have to advertise in order to see if there were local residents available. The goal is to have contractors, when they're doing work in the city of Modesto, to look locally, to at least see what resources there are or what labor force there is in Modesto. You often hear there's companies that come in, already have their workforce. They don't even know about the good workforce we have for here, our residents, a good workforce we have currently in Modesto, currently in Stanislaus County. This would provide that at least that opening. The remedies for noncompliance, let's say you end up going ahead, a contractor signs the affidavit saying they will do that and they don't, well, automatically it's not punitive. It is, if they didn't sign the affidavit at the beginning, that would be a required as far as your bid packet, so you would not be responsive if you didn't sign it. Most likely the contractor would sign it. Let's say going down the line, it's you end up getting the city ends up getting the information that they never went ahead, they never advertised. Well, at that point, the city does have discretion on what to do. The city can go ahead and talk with and meet with the contractor to develop a plan on how they will comply with the good faith effort, not the 25%, but the good faith effort requirements, and hopefully to get 25%. But that's what we're talking about, good faith effort. Again, they also, if for some reason you meet, they still don't comply, they finish the work, well, the city does have the discretion next time a contractor bids on a project for the City of Modesto, the city would look, of course, at the circumstances, legality, and consider whether that bid now from that contractor, because they didn't comply with the requirements of the previous bid, whether they would be considered non-responsible, since they didn't comply with bid requirements for the City of Modesto in a previous contract. That would be determined on a case-by-case basis. So what is not required? And I've brought this up because there is confusion, I believe, on what does this actually require. I've been hitting on this in the presentation. The draft ordinance does not require contractors to hire local residents or limit a contractor's hiring discretion. The ordinance itself has hiring discretion, a section that spells out that the contractor at the end of the day still has hiring discretion to hire whoever they wish. But they do have to at least look for local residents and advertise for local residents to put it out there to see if there are workers. Even if there are workers identified, that does not take away the discretion of the contractor that is trying to do work with the city. That does not take away their hiring discretion. They could still hire somebody else. It's very, very clear in the ordinance. The ordinance also does not change the legal requirement that the city has to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Oftentimes when you hear about local preference ordinance or things like that, oftentimes you say, well, you can go ahead and give them a certain percentage or skip and go to the next bidder because they're local or they're providing local workforce. This is not that. The requirement still applies. It's a legal requirement for the city to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder. That's still the law. The next component, so we talked about the local hire component. The next component of the ordinance, which is modeled very similarly as far as the requirements go to the local hire, is the skilled and trained workforce. Next step. The purpose of this component, the skilled and trained workforce, of course, is having our projects and our work done, setting a high quality and expectations for public works projects, picking a standard that is in the public contracts code in order to define what is training, what's local, what's skilled and trained workforce. This is separate from local. Two different components, two different requirements. Here, it's again, the goal is to continue to set high quality expectations for public works projects completed in Modesto. Next slide, please. As far as the contractor requirements, the contractor requirements really are based on, and it's a good faith effort, the requirements are in California Public Contract Code 2601. It models that as a goal, not a requirement. And I think that a lot of times what we've heard in vetting this contract is folks were confusing good faith effort for requirements. And this again is good faith effort, and we'll go to the definition of what it is. But the requirements of what is a skilled and trained workforce does come from the public contracting code. The same public contracting code that does provide the latitude for public agencies to actually enforce this requirement if they would want to. School districts, for example, you see that design build or even affordable housing. A lot of times this requirement is currently in place for contracts like that. Next slide, please. So the definition of skilled and trained workforce, the reality, it comes from that section of 2601. It's up on the screen, but really it's statutorily defined, and it really has at least 60% of the skilled journey persons employed to perform work on the contract or project by every contractor, and each of its subcontractors at every tier are graduated of an apprenticeship program for the applicable occupations. Next slide, please. There are also different exceptions built into the ordinance, which again, just follow the same state law application. And again, setting this as a goal, not a requirement. There is a 30% threshold that applies to other occupations, and the list is there: carpenter, cement, mason, drywall installer, etc. They're all listed there, and that's all part, again, of the state law. We didn't add any additional trades there. Basing it on as a goal, this public contract code, that way it gives us a framework to build on. When does a good faith effort apply? Very similar to the local hire component of the ordinance itself. It has to be contracts over $500,000. So we're not talking about $250,000 agreement that qualifies as a public works contract. It really has to be over $500,000. The good faith effort is not required. It has exceptions in the following circumstances. And again, similar to local hire, when state or federal law or grant conditions prohibit it, when the city determines a suitable pool of local residents, well, of skilled workforce, does not exist, when a contract is necessary to respond to an emergency. So you see those same requirements as far as very similar to the local hire. Next slide, please. Here's the main kind of requirements of this ordinance, and it goes back to what is a good faith effort, right? What does the contractor need to do to comply with the skilled workforce component of it? Well, very similar to local hire, contact recruitment sources to identify qualified individuals, advertise for qualified individuals in trade papers and in the newspaper. And again, there are exceptions for electronics there, and identify subcontractors. They have to identify who have qualified individuals as far as, again, the public contract code defines as the skilled workforce. Remedies, very similar. If we go down, a contract is entered into, the affidavit is signed saying that they will at least contact different potential sources of labor, sources, recruitment sources, and they say that they are going to advertise, but the contractor fails to do so. We'd be working with the contractor to set up a plan. Hopefully, we don't want to, the last thing we want to do is have somebody in breach of contract. The first step is always to try to now, at that point, wherever they are in the contract, try to get them, okay, can you reach out to see what the labor force is out there as far as skilled and trained workforce. And again, it's the good faith. It's not the percentages. The percentages are not the requirements. It's about having the ability to look at what skilled and trained workforce there is. And again, if for some reason we identify a contractor that's not complying and they finish the job, the next time they apply for work in Modesto, if they haven't complied with previous bid specs, case-by-case basis, we'd be looking at the legality of determining whether they were non-responsible. What is not required? Clarifying some of the, when folks get this ordinance, right away they say, I have to hire 60%, I have to hire 70%. The ordinance does not require that. The ordinance, again, does have a section that has a hiring discretion section, and it is in the draft ordinance before you on page 13. It's section 83805. This article does not limit contractors or subcontractors' ability to assess the qualifications of prospective workers and to make final hiring and retention decisions. No provisions of this article shall be interpreted so as to require a contractor or a subcontractor to employ or a worker not qualified for a position in question or to employ any particular worker. It has that discretion for the contractors themselves. The ordinance also does not change the legal requirements for the city to award contracts to the lowest responsible bidder. So that's something on those. Now, there are, and we'll point out, there are situations where we do enter into contracts that there are legal requirements or grant requirements that we impose that public contracts code. We'd be following, of course, those requirements under those particular contracts. And I know, again, I'm happy to answer any questions, Mayor, but here's obviously the motion for council's consideration would be to introduce and waive the first reading of the ordinance itself. And I know for any questions, we do have Mr. Wong here and also Mr. Hilton to answer questions. And I do want to say that we did get correspondence from, and I know that they have representatives here from ABC NorCal, and we did get public comments that were distributed to the council from members of the public.
Thank you very much for that report. Next will be any questions from council members. I see Councilmember Knoyer's hand raised.
Yes, I just have a couple of questions. What if they don't sign the affidavit? Does that make their bid null and void?
And I know that that as far as the process goes, I know most of these, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wong, but most of these contracts, the bidding process does require kind of a meeting with the contractors. It would be pointed out that this needs to be signed. This would be an important component of the bid packet. So at that point, without a signature, it would be non-responsive.
Okay. And my second question is, say they go out and locally and do a good faith effort, and there are people out there that qualify, but they don't hire them. They're, say they don't hire them, but they're the lowest bidder.
And great question. So the answer is that would not be a violation of the ordinance. Even if there are local folks identified, the ordinance does not require the actual hiring of anybody. It just requires that the good faith effort be done to look for the workforce identified in the ordinance itself. But the hiring discretion is still up to the contractor. Again, it's just a good faith effort ordinance at this point.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions from council members? Vice Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions I have is that the 25% threshold of employees, is that all employees that a contractor or subcontractor would have, including maybe office employees, bidders?
And Vice Mayor, and I know Palmer, if we could get that there is the definition of the actual 25%, and I believe it's of hours of construction hours, construction work hours.
Would you please step up to the microphone so that we can have this on the record? Thank you.
It's the total construction work hours, and that's defined under the definitions of the ordinance to mean the total hours worked on public works contracts by qualified individuals, whether those individuals are employed by the contractor or the subcontractor. So it's really kind of all the construction work hours.
So would that exclude people that are calculating numbers? Would that exclude people that are actually bidding the project?
And well, I know that we would create the purchasing manager. I get
So I think my question is, so if I was a contractor and I had 40% of my staff was local, but let's say 60% of those 40% actually worked in the office, or they did out there estimating jobs and this type of thing. are they excluded from this 25%?
And I know we'll have different regulations kind of with those details, and we'll answer that. But again, even if it's the exclusion, we're really talking about the 25% of total work hours or total construction work hours as a goal. So even with the exclusions, but I don't know, Will, if you could answer that question as far as construction.
Good evening, council members. Will Wong, Director of Utilities. So in regards to this part that you had asked the question for, bidders or the people who are doing the estimating, from my perspective, would not count toward the construction part because they were doing the estimating before the construction project and they had not been awarded the project yet.
So they're not included?
No.
Okay, and then next question is back on what is the skilled and trained workforce in lieu of the 60% threshold. So explain that to me again. So is there a 60% threshold or a 25% threshold?
Two different components.
Okay.
So the 25% goal is for the local hire component, which is the first part, the first article of the ordinance. And that's why I kind of mentioned that it's kind of two components that work separately. I know how they work together as well, but they really work separately. The component of the local hire portion is really 25% of local residents. The skilled workforce, that component of it that's a different threshold built based on the public contract code, and it's 60% of certain occupations and 30% of others pursuant to the code. I know Palmer could go through those a little more as far as in detail.
And that's the current code now?
That's the current code.
So
right.
is that code a higher standard to meet than what we're setting?
No. So and again, we're setting a goal. The public contracts code sets requirements if certain contracts make it a requirement, but it's the same requirement right now. The public contract sets that requirement. For us, it's a goal, but it's mirrors. Our goal mirrors that public contract code requirement for certain contracts. We don't have that requirement at this point. We just have a goal.
Okay, so as a contractor, if I need to hire journeymen and journeymen are not available, but apprenticeships are available, I wouldn't have to hire the apprenticeships in order to do the work that I need journeymen to do, correct?
So again, under the ordinance.
Help me here.
No, under the ordinance, you wouldn't have to hire, you could hire whoever you want.
Okay.
It's just making a good faith effort to meet those requirements set in the ordinance. But under the ordinance, the hiring discretion is still up to the contractor to hire who they wish, but that they make a good faith effort to at least look at what the market was out there and who was actually potentially, were there any folks that could be supplied or could be offered to perform that work. And if the answer is yes, they did the good faith effort, that's all we're looking at. Check off that box, and who they end up hiring, that's still their decision. So I hope that answers the question. I know it gets confusing because there's a 60%, 30%, so we automatically, our thought is automatically that's the requirement. But just keeping in mind the requirement is always the good faith effort, and that's the goal. It's just the goal, the requirement's the good faith effort.
And then, because I'm in insurance, I deal with a lot of contractors. So one of my questions, my last question would be, would this open up a contractor or subcontractor to a lawsuit because they did not, in somebody else's mind, they did not fulfill the requirement that we're asking?
Well, as far as a lawsuit goes, the lawsuit wouldn't really be, this is our ordinance as far as our remedy. This is not a remedy for any other folks outside. So if somebody said, you didn't provide a good faith effort, we're going to sue you. Well, this is a program that the city has. It's not a law that they're breaking that the state has or anything like. It doesn't have remedies for residents to sue folks. It's really a program that the city is doing on their own contracts.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Zalaki.
I have to illustrate an example that goes back to when we started Highway 132, which was a major, it's ongoing project right now. And one of the reasons that I support the local hire so much is in my conversations, I was talking with a group of individuals in our community and sharing with them how we as a council, this is before this ordinance, had a, quote, local hire part in our contracts. And I said this at a group, and one of my good friends here, who represents the electricians, I'll just point him out, he said, and I said how we had this, and we're hiring people locally. He said, well, I'd like to correct you. He said, you don't have one electrician on the job. They all came in from, I think, I'm not going to say which city, but it was a ways away. And I said, you got to be kidding. A good friend of mine, Michael Van Winkle, mayor of Waterford, I talked with him, and he's telling me how he'd love to work on this project, and he has to drive past 132 while it's being worked, while he's driving to work to the Bay Area. I said, man, that doesn't work. We got to do better in this. We got to figure out how to at least hire our own local citizens, and how do we do that? And that's somewhat of the genesis of why this is an important goal to set, is how do we get our local people the jobs here locally and not driving for 2 or 3 hours a day, and create a better environment locally. So that's just an illustration of what's actually going on.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none at this time, we will go to the public. I have on my hands, I believe, 19 cards to hear from everyone, so I will just go in the order that I received them. And each person has 3 minutes. First is Tim Robertson. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor Zwalin and Modesto City Council for giving me the time to speak tonight. It's my honor to be here. I'm here to speak in support of item 13 this evening, the local hire and skilled and trade ordinance. I think the problems are pretty well established. I think in the beginning of the presentation we talked about unemployment disparity, wage disparity, but they're actually much more pronounced than what we heard. I sit on the Workforce Development Board here in Stanislaus County, and we had a recent study that said that average wage for people that work is over 15% below the national average, not the Bay Area average. And cost of living is over 15% above the national average. And that was before this massive spike in housing costs recently. What that equates to is about under 70% of buying power, 70 cents on the dollar that a working person from Modesto can afford versus the national average, which is at the very bottom of the list. You might have seen a study that was in the Modesto Bee that it's more expensive to live in Modesto than it is in New York, and that's what we're talking about, buying power of a working person, wage versus cost of living. What local hire and skilled and trade ordinances do is remedies these problems. In the workforce system, we look at ways to make sure that the jobs that we're creating and developing are family-sustaining jobs that include healthcare and pensions. These are ways that we can make sure that the resources that taxpayer monies are funding on these public projects are used to build high roads to the kind of jobs that are family-sustaining. We recently had a Brookings Institute study that determined that the wage needed to sustain a family in this county that would have health care, that only 13% of jobs in Stanislaus County actually meet those criteria. We have so much that we need to do in order to fix these gross disparities that we have among working people that are having a hard time surviving. We heard about housing, we heard about all of these other issues earlier. This local hire and skilled and trade is a way to invest in our communities, to make sure that the things that we're building here are built by local residents, done right, and also investing in our ability to train our workers to have the kind of jobs that are going to sustain their families. We have massive economic disparities in these communities. Working through skilled and trade and local hire is our way, one great way that we can do this. And I hope that we can really take this good faith effort seriously and make sure that we are doing everything that we can to ensure that Modesto citizens and Stanislaus County residents are hired for these jobs, and that we really are investing in the on-the-job training programs that lead to great work, great family-sustaining jobs, and a successful growing economy for all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Joshua Lepper. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Wallen, members of the council. My name is Joshua Lepper, and I'm a labor relations representative with the Laborers International Union. I want to say first that we represent over 1,300 workers right here in Local 1130 in Modesto. We represent over 35,000 workers in Northern California, pardon me. Before you tonight is an ordinance entitled Local Hire and Skilled and Trained, but it is also an employment and economic realization that we are underperforming in terms of providing local training and employment opportunities. The unemployment rate, as mentioned, is 33% higher in Stanislaus County than the national average. And that's been true for over 20 years. 62% of our local residents commute outside of our county for employment. These statistics have long since indicated that we can do better. Organized labor has enhanced our training programs and local partnerships over the past decade to provide expanded career technical education programs and create both apprenticeship and journeyman pathways into the construction industry to address these deficiencies. As is the case in any industry, training is key to quality and success. As mentioned, in 2016, the California legislation passed the Public Contract Code 2601, which requires a skilled and trained workforce to build our public schools. Simply put, as is the case in any professional industry, workers who build our public works projects must be formally trained. Work performed with taxpayer money should be held to the highest standards. And where we have the opportunity to both train and provide employment pathways, we must. Because if we do not, leadership is failing our community. In closing, the Laborers Union is in favor of improving our unemployment rates and reducing our commuter population. And we strongly support the approval of this local hire and skilled and trained workforce ordinance initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Steve Stevenson. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Steve Stevenson, member and representative of UA Local 442 Plumbers Pipe Fitters. Over the last 20-plus years, I've started out as an apprentice and steadily worked my way up to journeyman, foreman, general foreman, project manager, instructor, and today representative. I've had the distinct privilege of being an instructor to some of the residents here in the City of Modesto and a lot of the surrounding area. The reason I'm here tonight is I stand in support of a local hiring preference in public works contracts and to support utilizing a skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts. To be clear, these policies are just plain common sense. Supporting these ordinances means you support creating working opportunities for the residents of Modesto. Being deeply involved in the training of our members, I'm proud to say our training is second to none. I'll put our graduation rates and success up against any parallel program claiming to produce a skilled and trained workforce. Our success numbers are backed by the State of California's Department of Apprenticeship Standards. Supporting a skilled and trained workforce ensures your tax dollars are being utilized on a workforce that is qualified to perform the work. San Joaquin County and the City of Stockton have already implemented similar ordinances that have had an immediate positive impact within its communities. Duplicating those successes here in Modesto is possible by simply supporting the local hire and skilled and trained workforce language. These positive results will mean more residents of Modesto working here locally rather than having to commute to the Bay Area for similar work. They will be making good middle-class wages to help boost the local economy, and these impacts are not short-term. This is creating local work opportunities that can affect
Modesto residents in a positive ways for generations to come. Being able to work locally is paramount to giving Modesto workers the remaining time of the day to be present with their family. This means more Modesto parents being able to actively have time to be present in their children's lives, rather than be stuck in commute traffic for countless hours of the work week. In closing, I'd like to again thank you for your time and respectfully request that you support these two ordinances on local hiring preference and public works contracts and support utilizing a skilled and trained workforce in public works.
All right, thank you. Next is Bobby Stutzman. All right, Dean Fadif.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dean Fadif. I'm representing over 4,000 operating engineers out of our local area, specifically approximately 450 members that live in the city of Modesto. I was actually going to have a couple of apprentices come up tonight and speak. Unfortunately, they were working out of town, and they told me that they have to get up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and hit the road. So they were not going to be able to make the meeting tonight. This is exactly what we are trying to help. In 2020, Stanislaus County Workforce Development Board had the Stanislaus County Commuter Study done. They found that the top industry for commuters within Stanislaus County was construction. And they also found 49% of the out-of-county commutes originated in the city of Modesto. So your members, your citizens are leaving every single day. There's also been studies done that for every dollar of public works that is done, you get back 7. And that's because people spend money and earn it and spend it again and go to the coffee shops and all that. That only really works is if the members and people are working in your community, are living in the community. If you have an out-of-town contractor, you might get some burgers and fries or something like that, but the rest of the dollars are taken home. They're not spent in your community. As far as the skilled and trained goes, what that does is it gives an opportunity for young individuals to come up through the trades, and it creates pathways to high road jobs. We're not talking, oh, we're just getting you back to minimum wage. We're creating jobs that support families. And just a couple of quick statistics. Our own training center, 2021. We do a really good job on outreach. In 2021, we had 10% African Americans. We had 9% women. We had 8% vets. So that's over 28%, 27% of our entire apprenticeship is some sort of minority. So I urge you guys to take up these 2 articles and pass them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jose Vallecos. Welcome.
Well, thank you, ma'am. My name is Jose Villegas. I'm a 7th grade apprentice with the Local 442. As a UA apprentice, I found a new sense of pride in my trade and training. The training I am receiving is second to none. When I turn out as a journeyman, my skill set will qualify me to work anywhere in the U.S. in the pipe trades. My hopes are there will be job opportunities one day in my hometown. Local work means local money. Local money means growth in the local economy. I was born here in 1995. I've lived in Modesto for the better portion of my adult life, and having the ability to travel around your hometown and look around at job sites and say, I helped build that, you know, I get a lot of sense, pride in that. And it has a longer lasting impact. I want to see Modesto flourish, and I will do my part to see that through. According to the article by the Modesto Bee, study software by Good Hire Background, a screening software company out of Redwood City, Modesto ranks 6th on least affordable housing markets. One spot I haven't had in New York City, one way to combat the statistic is to create more jobs to keep the middle class and local workers employed. Keep Modesto residents working means keeping Modesto residents housed. For me, bringing home our heroes personally means, as a veteran, I was facing an identity crisis when I was leaving the Air Force, and it became a kind of what do I do kind of thing. Ultimately, I decided with the UA's help, with the local 442's help, everything that I wanted to do and achieve could be possible, and even not just possible, but it was actually a safe bet and a smart bet. This identity crisis occurs at the thought of giving something up that is near and dear to you, and something or someone that you identify as. For me, that was an American Airman. Now, with the help of the UA and the local 442, I'm an American pipe fitter, welder, and plumber. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brene Gaudet. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Brene Gaudet. I am a fourth-year apprentice with the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I am also a Modesto resident. Construction, as you know, happens everywhere. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into a trade, is because I wanted to know that wherever I lived, I could find a job nearby. I chose the IBEW apprenticeship specifically because I wanted a good education in the trade, and my research told me that the union apprenticeship was going to be the best way to get the education and on-the-job training that I would need to acquire the skills to best succeed as an electrician. After 4 years, that, in my opinion, still holds true. And I strongly support this ordinance because, let's be real, no one wants to travel for work. I don't go into work and think this is great, but wouldn't it be better if I could do this in some small town in Arizona? I currently live and work in Modesto, and I'm loving my 20-minute commute. And I want to know that when I finish my apprenticeship, I will still be able to find work that lets me take a short drive home to my family at the end of the day. Furthermore, as a Modesto resident, I want to know that public works jobs are helping to employ people in this area. When I told my fiance that I was going to the city council meeting to speak on this ordinance tonight and what the ordinance was, her response was, wait, that's not already a thing? So I would like to pass that question on to you. Why is this not a thing? This ordinance seems like a simple step to make sure that local public works projects are employing skilled and local workers, like me, hopefully. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Nick Svoboda. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mrs. Wallen, and City Council. My name is Nick Svoboda. I'm a Modesto City resident, a lifelong Modesto City resident. I'm an apprenticeship graduate from the IBEW, a journeyman state certified electrician, and I'm also a business representative for the IBEW Local 684. I represent roughly 600 members and their families for our local jurisdiction, and we are in support of the Modesto City Local Hire Ordinance that is before you today on the agenda. There are a myriad of pertinent reasons why this ordinance should pass, and I will be speaking on two of those. Securing local work and community outreach. We have approximately 150 members that travel across the hill every day to go to work, and securing local work would mean that many more families would get to eat and pray around the dinner table at a decent hour on a daily basis. It would mean that many more moms and dads would be home to coach their children's sports teams. It would mean that many more families would be together a greater amount of time and help grow our City of Modesto's community. As these workers are coming back and not having a commute, local contractors have a better chance at manning these projects with the skilled and trained labor that is needed to complete these jobs and projects on time and under budget. There are times like 2019 and right now in 2022 with the courthouse and other upcoming big projects that we will need a vast amount of manpower. One specifically on the western side of Stanislaus County that our local will be needing 250 electricians for just one project. It is a solar farm that is on I-5, much like the solar farm completed years back in Modesto, that are times that we hit all facets of the community to man these projects. A project like this is in need of many entry-level workers, and the IBEW Local 684 has historical practices of hitting all avenues of employment services, including homeless resource centers, to fill those entry-level positions. We have hired homeless. We have hired those that have not made the best choices in life. We have hired those that sometimes just need a second chance. There are countless times and stories when broken individuals have been given a second chance and ended up being great contributing members of society after completing our apprenticeship. Construction occupations look into the community to help the community, which in turn builds that community into a skilled and trained workforce. I would like to thank you all today for giving me the time to speak, and thank you for helping the great City of Modesto with your yes vote today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next is Corey Van Rice. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity to come speak with you tonight. You've heard a lot of very eloquent talk tonight. It's all been very good. You've got a lot of people that want to speak tonight, so I have one thing I would like to share. Would everybody here in support of this skilled and trained and local hire policy please stand up? I think you can see for yourselves that the community is in support of this. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Next is Scott Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you. Members of Wallen and council members. So I didn't write a speech. I honestly didn't even know I was going to speak tonight, but so I'm going to wing it a little bit. So I run the Central Valley JTC. It's the electrical apprenticeship program on Yosemite Boulevard, and I've been affiliated with them for 9 years, 2013, and now I'm the training coordinator for that program. And I'm going to speak at the time that I have with regards to my experience of having to travel and all that, and not having a job here in certain times. Nick, one of my colleagues, he stated that we want to have work as an electrician, a skilled and trained individual in our own backyard. And there were times where I did have that, but there were times where I didn't because somebody else came outside the jurisdiction or whatever, the county, and took a job for me. It's very, very important to me with my family that I'm around them. As I can speak for every member that just stood up, they want to work and be able to come home and spend time with their family, with their wives, their extended family, whoever. And just have time to reflect on themselves and, not be sitting in a car driving hundreds of miles to work, a week, especially with gas prices the way they are and all that stuff. We want to keep our work here. So I am strongly in favor of that, and I would appreciate it if you guys would support that.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Next is Tyler Powell. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm Tyler Powell. Keep it short and sweet. I'm a journeyman electrician with IB that I've used at City before. Been working with them for about 10 years now, and I work mainly private sector, so I've been lucky enough to work here locally. And I have to travel, but many of my friends and classmates didn't have that opportunity. So I'm just here to speak and say I want the same opportunity that I've been able to have working in our own backyard. And I want everyone else to be able to have that and keep our tax dollars working here in our own community. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Teston Bachman? Justin. Justin, welcome.
Hello, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Justin Bachman, and I'm here on behalf of the Construction Industry Force Account Council, also known as CFAC. CFAC's mission is, in part, to ensure public agencies' compliance with the California Public Contract Code. Through our efforts, we seek to ensure a fair, transparent, and level playing field for all public works contractors. I would like to urge you to vote in favor of the proposed local hire and skilled and trained workforce initiatives presented to you. By doing so, you are better aligning the city's public works policies with current public contract code requirements. Although not statutorily required to do so, the city is taking action to provide the best quality of work to its citizens by its citizens. A skilled and trained workforce further ensures you will be receiving a product built by the most highly trained and educated workforce available in order to deliver a project on time and on or under budget. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Next is Kevin Simpson. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I just want to start by saying I'm Kevin Simpson. I'm a local Modesto resident. I've lived here my whole life. I'm also a local contractor. Over the past history of my career in construction, I have also, like many other people, been forced to travel out of the area for work. I am currently a local contractor and business owner with my partner. We are always striving to ensure that our employees get the best training, they get the best and most current certifications, and we are doing everything that we can to stay in compliance with all of the state regulations, whatever they are. However, I am in disagreement with this ordinance because it could potentially force out a local contractor like myself and create a situation where I would be unable to bid on work. There's no hiding tonight who's behind this ordinance. They have a great showing, very impressive, great bunch of guys, work with them on jobs in various locations. I have nothing bad to say about them. But I would like to know that I have the same shot, the same opportunities to bid on local work so that I can be home with my family every night, so that my employees can as well. I can say that almost every one of my employees lives either in Modesto or Stanislaus County. Not all of them, but almost all of them. And the majority of our work that we do is right here in this county, and we specialize in public works projects. I currently am able to meet all the requirements that you are putting forth, but there are some that aren't. There are contractors that are trying to evolve and trying to get to that position, and an ordinance like this can stop them in their tracks and eliminate the possibilities that they have to get into this work and work close to home, just like we all want. I don't want to get into all the other issues that I have with this ordinance because my time is limited, but I would just like you to please consider there are other options besides the one that you were putting on the table tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gary Emery. Welcome.
Madam Mayor, council people. Gary Amering with Amering Systems here out of Oakdale. Been in business here almost 50 years, not quite. We've had a long relationship with the community and a lot of the county and state projects. And our biggest challenge is having qualified people. But that's been a challenge from day one for all contractors. And if we make it our goal that we try to interview and hire the best people to do the job and train them, and train them, and train them. Training doesn't start like a few days at the apprentice shop or a few months, what have you. It comes over years and years and years of constantly updating and having qualified people that allows us to do the quality work. This has obviously created problems when you feel that, when you understand that 90% or 95% of all the people that are employed are non-union. Yet the union is driving this thing for different reasons than what we all would like to learn about. And some of the common sense that comes through the comments that are being made tonight has to be realized that this country wasn't made because of somebody's desire to do what is already being done. All the contractors, successful contractors, have that goal in mind all the time, and we really appreciate the people who have gone before and built most of the stuff here in our area, and we continue to do that. So it's with this in mind that I disagree with having one more regulation or burdensome thing that falls down on the independent contractor to have to meet some of these goals that's already being done. And I think we're doing a real good job in making sure that all this is done in a quality way.
Thank you. Next, Tori Simpson. Welcome. Hi there.
Good evening. My name is Tori Simpson. I am the owner with my husband, Kevin, of Modesto Executive Electric. We've been in business for 33 years. We are a merit shop company. We have done hundreds of projects with the City of Modesto, the Stanislaus County. We have done many, many projects in this valley. We have very highly skilled and trained workforce. We have used WICA and ABC apprenticeship program. All of our, most of our apprentices have come out of WICA or ABC. Our journeymen are skilled and trained, which was what you were asking for. We already have that right now. Councilman Wright, you were asking about the journeyman and apprentice. You have to have so many journeymen and apprentice on a project. That is required with public works projects. We do 90% public works projects. Out of that 90%, we have to have 60% of our workforce to be skilled and trained. So we are already meeting the compliance that this ordinance would be tacking on. It's just more regulations, more paperwork, things that we're already doing already in our workforce. The union is very well organized here, as you see. Merit sharp workers, actually, we are comprised of the bigger portion of the contractors in the valley. We do a lot of the work here. You know, they've been saying how they have to commute, and well, what jobs do you get? And a lot of it's all public works. So the lowest possible bidder, you still, if there's no work here, we have to go somewhere else. We have to go outside of Stanislaus County, and then we're going to have to travel. A lot of these people have to travel, and they travel because their bids, their jobs that they do get are outside of Stanislaus County. So, and you have to remember that prevailing wage, Stanislaus County has a set wage. Each county has a set wage, according to the state, that we have to pay. And that a lot of contractors want to go outside of the county, and because they have higher, you know, San Francisco, let's say, it's $190 to work over there. A lot of people like to work over there. Anyway, I just say that you please consider the alternative and maybe do a little bit more research since you had some questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Charlie Minghetti. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
How many of you ever done work as a contractor for the City of Modesto? One, okay. I don't know what your experience was, and you are a lovely owner. You're a very good owner, but it's not easy. It's not fun. Being a public agency contractor is very difficult. There's a tremendous amount of regulatory burden, and the ordinances that you are considering here occur to me to be I don't mean to sound flippant, but they seem to be a solution in search of a problem. I don't know what the annual construction budget is for the City of Modesto. I don't know if it's 100 million or 200 million. But I mean, if it's 100 million, figure about 50 million of that is labor, and at typical prevailing wage jobs, your lot's like 300 full-time equivalents for the entire year, for the entire construction program for the entire city. If it's 100 million, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was coming tonight till this morning. The local provision, I don't believe is a good one. We have a difficult enough time getting our own people, doing our own, to do our projects, we and our subcontractors. And this so-called good faith effort that City Attorney Sanchez is talking about, and he went to great lengths to say that there's no penalties, and every time he said that, I would say, at this point. I don't concur with that this is going to solve anything as far as the local hire portion of this. You want to have contractors that have their own people. You don't want to tell the contractor who he's got to hire. It's tough enough already with prevailing wage. You're telling us, it's not you, it's in the code, what we have to pay. And then as far as the skilled and trained workforce, I mean, why do you care? You're the owner. Have you been having a problem? Councilman Madrigal, has there been a problem with City of Modesto projects being poorly built? Councilman Ritchie, have you heard about problems with the City of Modesto projects where the quality is not good? Mayor Zwollen, have you heard, is there a problem with the city projects not being done properly in the workforce? I mean, what I'm getting at is we as contractors, whether union contractors or open shop contractors like myself, we want to have a good workforce, but we really don't want you to tell us what our workforce is and how to develop and train our own workforce. It's difficult enough to be in a contractor, all right? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Goring. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Zwollen and members of the Modesto City Council. I'm Nicole Goering with the Associated Builders and Contractors and Northern California chapter. We've been training apprentices and graduating skilled and trained people for over 2 decades. And before we had our apprenticeship programs, the non-union contractors were not getting any apprentices from the union program, so we had to sue the state of California in order to get programs approved. And since that time, there's been other blockages put in place that has not allowed us to get additional apprenticeship programs other than the 6 that we currently are training and putting people to work. So prior to that, you have all of these journey people who are doing skilled and trained work, they've just been trained in different avenues on the job in the military. Some of the contractors do specialty work that you can't, or the workers are doing specialty work, for example, concrete restoration, that can't even be learned in the apprenticeship programs. So these are the people that we are concerned about that are going to be displaced by this skilled and trained workforce in the Article 8, because it's saying you have to go out to hire skilled and trained graduates. Well, not every journeyman working out there is a skilled and trained graduate. You have some, but you don't have all. And so I'm concerned about those journey workers who are been in the industry for 20 to 30 years, and they are now potentially going to be displaced. And then the contractor, and those are his skilled and trained, proven workforce who are safe. He knows their safety practices. If he's not able to, or he or she not able to use them, and they're hiring somebody else, they don't know the work product and the quality of that worker. So that's going to cause problems. And then another concern is with the good faith ordinance, you signed the document that you went out to look, but you didn't hire. Is the city in the future, on a future project, going to consider them, well then now that's a non-responsive bid because that contract now was not done. You did a good faith to hire, but you didn't hire a skilled and trained workforce according to this document. So now you're on our list, you're gonna now potentially be a non-responsive bidder. And then finally, what additional audits is this gonna open up the construction community to, all the local contractors working here? Are all of these projects, contractors potentially are going to assume and misread that these are all these are skilled and trained requirements, and so they're either not going to bid or they're going to do the jobs and open themselves up for audits, and it's going to be put out there that maybe some of these jobs were done without the skilled and trained workforce. It just adds, people are already doing prevailing wage and we're doing it very well, and we're doing qualified work. It's just adding an extra level of complexity that's actually going to cut down 75% of the people that currently bid work in your city. They're just simply not going to do it because of the level of risk there. So I just wanted to point that out. I do have amendments for inclusion, and I didn't go over them in my talk, but they are in the back of the document to include all certified electricians that as an exemption, and all journey workers who have the exact number of hours to have graduated from apprenticeship programs in the field. I asked that to be added to the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jessica Self. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, council members, staff members, mayor, and citizens of Modesto. My name is Jessica Self. I am a Modesto resident. And wow, I'm hearing from veterans, from obviously skilled workers. Apprentices are skilled workers, so to answer the question. But also hearing about people getting second chances and all of the type of workforce that our labor provides. I'm really impressed tonight. The ask here is literally the bare minimum that our community deserves. The job of government isn't only to look at the cheapest possible way to accomplish any task. In fact, that's the opposite. Government should be looking at the totality of the circumstances when it comes to any contract or any work that the government does. We shouldn't allow the cheapest labor to prevail, and asking for a skilled workforce is literally the bare minimum. We shouldn't wait for a condominium to collapse on 200 people, or for our schools to not be up to code, and for lawsuits, as we talked about with insurance. Those come to the city when there aren't skilled workforces doing the job. Apprentices start out immediately on the job with training, and then they have to go to school after their long work days, right guys? Every single night to do classes to learn even more about what they're doing. I am really sorry, but I hope that these same contractors don't bid on projects in the future. The reality is that them having to do prevailing wage is gross, right? So they're not in the percentage of people who can't afford to live here, but their workers are. So hiring the poorest people who can do the cheapest job for the least amount of education and support, that's not good, right? So I hope that this discourages contractors who have to pay the prevailing wage and don't really want to be doing that to not apply for these bids. I think that when we look at circular money, I think that's a term that's been going around, you can make $1, $5, or $10, okay? You spend $1 on a public works project. Those people, they eat lunch here, they have dinner here, they buy homes here, and when they're present in the evenings, they take their kids to soccer practice, they're engaged at schools, they're citizens of your community. That money then multiplies. The bare minimum that we should be asking for projects that are done by our government should be that the humans doing them can live in our community, number one, because the people that aren't being paid in these ways cannot. They're literally who we're talking about. And the government's job is to protect citizens and to provide works that are okay and safe for the community. Let's not wait until there is an issue. Let's handle it now and pay our community members what they deserve.
Thank you. Next is Next is Sebastian Jones. Pardon me?
My 5 minutes. I didn't want the bell to go off when I'm talking. Good afternoon. Yeah, this acting up. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Excuse my voice. I'm in favor of this here, because I look out for South Modesto and West Modesto. Because these people spend money when they go buy furniture. They don't take their money up to Oakland and San Francisco. They bring it right here. Excuse my voice. But I was listening to Bill when he said we had electric contractors here, but they was going out of town. That's sad. But I didn't know that we had all these people. Man, Modesto, we sure have grown up. But one thing about it, everybody up there, when y'all was campaigning, you guys said jobs, jobs, jobs. Everybody makes that commitment. Well, here it is, Stanislaus County. Keep the money here, where they can buy things here, not take it to San Francisco and Oakland. I'm gonna say this here. $8.5 million, twice that. We have the parks, the Martin Luther King Park, and the Cesar Chavez Park. Each one of them, $8.5 million. And I would love for the Modesto or the Stanislaus County to be working on that project. And speaking of that, I haven't even heard nothing on it. But let's get on that. That's $17 million back into our community. And these guys here gonna help bring it back here. It's a good thing. Like I said, excuse my voice. But I'm in favor, and I know you guys was talking about jobs. And I hope y'all vote, because y'all said it. You told the people, I'm fighting for the jobs. But this county, let's do what's right. Because West and South Modesto, I want them to get a piece of this pie. I want somebody hard over there that would give them a chance. I'm not going to say too much about the cannabis stores. They didn't hire not one African American. I heard a gentleman said he hired some women, and he hired some African American. I thank him for that. I appreciate that. Because all he asking is another chance. And you can turn a person's life around. Once again, I'm going to put them on the spot. Y'all need to check them out, because they didn't hire not one. But they came up here and told me they was going to hire some. But shame on them. I want to thank you for this time. And God bless y'all, seeing you once again.
Thank you. Next we have Bobby Stutzman.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
Mayor and council members. So we've heard a lot of, positives and, some that are not supportive of this tonight. What I'd like to point out is, we're hearing from some of the union trades here and from merit shops or open shops. There is nothing in this language that has anything to do with union, non-union. This issue of local hire is literally local hire. People here in the county
in the city working on the projects that we pay for. Skilled and trained, supporting the apprenticeships. We all have apprenticeships here. I mean, you know, we heard, you know, that Open Shop has their apprenticeships, they have graduates. You know, if that's the case, they have the skilled and trained. You've heard the Open Shop contractors come speak tonight and say we can meet all these requirements. It's not an issue. If it's not an issue, why is it an issue here tonight? I think that this is probably the best move that we could be making to help support our local community, our local workforce, our local apprentices that want to continue building a family here. These people take a lot of pride in these buildings. My kids still, when I'm driving by, my daddy built that. My daddy built that. It brings me a lot of pride, and I know that they're going to do that with their children, saying, you know, your grandfather built this. That is something that can continue to pass down, and it makes them want to stay in the local community. So I thank you for your time, and I would like to support. Thank you.
Thank you. I see online Dimitri Guzman.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, I'm Dimitri Guzman, and I own and operate Best Electric here in Modesto. And I wanted to comment on Articles 7 and 8 being considered by the council. Now, I understand that you've been working on this for some time, and I have no problem with Article 7. Okay, I'm all for local hiring preferences. That's a separate issue. But I do have a problem with Article 18, which states utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts. The key verbiage here being utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works. I don't know how anybody can say their program is more certified than our program or the program that's been administered by the state of California. You know, I'm just wondering, the city has operated for how many years without this ordinance in place? I mean, how many years has it operated without it? Now all of a sudden you have to ask yourself, why now? Why is it being brought up now? What is the purpose of Article 8? And how will it really benefit Modesto? I want to stress that all contractors on public works projects are mandated to pay prevailing wages. So the wage issue here is not an issue. Everybody has to pay prevailing wages. As far as the electrical trade goes, our electricians are tested and certified by the state of California in order to apply their trade. Why add another layer of certification that somebody else says that we have to have on this thing? We've already been tested and certified already. We have employees who have worked in the trades for 20 plus years and would have to go through an additional training program teaching the same things they've been educated and tested on already. I'm requesting that you please table this issue for now until you have investigated it further and heard from both sides of the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Welcome.
I don't know if I can even ask this or not, but I'm going to try. State Contractors License Board. Where do we have them in Modesto?
I will ask our city manager. All right, we're going to get lots of different answers for this.
Okay.
So I think, why don't we...
I want printed sometime to a lot of people in the city of Modesto who've had licensed contractors at their homes. The work is not completed, and I happen to be one of them. And work is not completed or is started and not done properly. There's been no one for lots of people to go to. An attorney in the city of Modesto, I have tried for over 40 years to find someone. In fact, the first one that worked for me happened to have been the city of Modesto. The work was never finished at all. I still have live wiring in my home because of the Contractors License Board okayed it. Sears Roebuck put a new roof, so they stated on my garage in 2016. They had me sign a paper. Some contractors and some businesses take signatures and put them onto paper. I showed this to one or two people. They said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Sears did not put on my roof of my garage what they were supposed to. But then they took and printed my name on another paper and put me on that crazy thing called the HERO program. I had 3 contractors, Clark's, DeHart's, and Sears. Clark's and DeHart's were close to $4,000. Sears was close to $4,000. But Sears has been charging me that amount for every year since 2016. And if that is a licensed contractors board that can ever do anything about it, I'd like to know where in the heck they are and where's an attorney who will help some other people, because I'm not the only one it's been done to. And those that are listening to this at all and can do anything, please try and do something.
Thank you. If you'd like to give your information to someone, we could maybe try to help you get the phone number of the place you would like to know about. Thank you for your comment. Any other members of the public that would like to speak? All right. Welcome.
Thank you for letting me speak. Hi, my name is Bobby Humphreys. I am a graduated apprentice of the Laborers Union, and I am just turned myself currently into a general contractor. Like she has said, I've walked into many of homes and just very bad installs. And I spent 6 years working for Tiger Construction as an asphalt paver. And I spent another year working for Sinclair doing grading and underground. And 6 years at Tigard, I went all the way up to Redwood City, all the way down to Bakersfield. Sinclair, I was 30 minutes away from home every day. The quality of life was extremely better when I was 30 minutes away from home. But not only that, the apprenticeship that I graduated from, that gave me a very good understanding of construction in general. I turned myself into a general contractor not because I spent 6 years paving, not because I did underground and grading. It's because the apprenticeship program that I went through gave me a full understanding of the generalized construction of everything. I can do tile, I can do roofing, I'm building a patio today. I just remodeled an entire bathroom, including plumbing. I can do electrician work, and it's because of the generalized knowledge that I gained from my apprenticeship program. And I've walked into many of bathrooms, many of houses where wires weren't properly spliced correctly because the guys didn't know what they were doing. I have a 3-sided shower pan inside a corner that only has 2 sides, so there's a 6-inch gap. And I've had to fix a lot of amateur work, and it was because of my apprenticeship program that I turned myself into a general contractor, and I have the knowledge. I spent 7 years in the field, and I had journeymen. My first year of my apprenticeship, after going through the courses, I had journeymen asking me what to do. And honestly, taking through an apprenticeship, like even non-unions, an apprenticeship program, and just becoming the most skilled person you can be is highly important, because I've had a person who's not an electrician go to put a 2020 breaker and a Tesla charger into someone's house and could have burned it down because an app said he could. So I think the apprenticeship program and what you guys are saying is a very good thing, and to be completely honest with you, I can fill out an affidavit and put in an ad for that work in a day. And I think that it's not a requirement, it's just good faith, it's not hard to do, and I think fully support what Liz is talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Item 13. All right, I do not see anyone in person or online, so we will close the public comment period. Thank you very much. Now I will turn it over to council members for comments. Do I have any council members that would like to make a comment? I see Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for Will. Will, how many city projects do we have that we did last year that would be, this ordinance would apply to?
All right, so we've averaged about 25 to 30 projects per year.
That are over 500,000?
Yeah, over $500,000. Half of those are probably street
federal projects, so those have the restrictions that we cannot apply this ordinance on. So typically, these would be utilities type projects, and so we probably have about 10 projects.
And then something was said about the courthouse. Is that a county project or a state project?
I believe that's a state project.
So this courthouse would not be involved in this ordinance?
I don't know, I'm not familiar with the courthouse project, but because it's using state and probably some federal money, I think.
Right, but our ordinance would not affect the courthouse whatsoever.
Correct.
And, you know, I'm really undecided on this. I think there might be some other options I would like to look at. And right now, I just don't know which way I'm going to go. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Zalaki?
Thank you, Mayor. I've been listening to this for a while and having had experiences in this business because I am a licensed, well, I was a licensed contractor, semi-retired now, but I built everything from subdivisions, off-sites, doing the paving and grading, hiring independent contractors and such. Most of it was non-union, although I had some union experience also, building in multifamily housing. So it's not an equal equivalent, but I understand what the challenges are. At the same time, I think of the skilled and trained part, the importance of it, having now being on the council and experience the exact problems that are being discussed here. We've had some projects that I didn't appreciate the work. I thought it was underperformed, and what it just didn't do it, and cost us some serious time and perhaps even dollars when it was all said and done. So I understand the importance of making sure that the crews that are doing the work are being trained well and paid well, because this is government work. The federal government requires, if there's a federal government dollar in it, it then requires and elevates who can actually do that work. And I think the point of it is there is a necessity to make sure we get our monies out of the project. In other words, if it's, you can cover up work, particularly if it's something that is underground, if you can cover it up and get past a couple of years, or 3 or 4 years, whatever, what's our requirement? 2 years, Will, on warranty after inspection?
It's usually 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
No, so if you can cover it up and get away with it, and it's not done the way it should, it hasn't been compacted, or the soils are not right, or something such as that, we, the city, get stuck with the bill later on to fix it. And that's not right. That's not what we should be trying to do. We should strive to have good workers on our project, that they are able to perform, and they've had that training, and they have the ongoing training, and they know what's expected from the City of Modesto and their plans. And so, as I started out earlier when I talked about this, so many of our local people were not able to work locally when we had major work. That's a disappointment to me, and that's what we're trying to fix. That doesn't mean it's perfect. That means we're trying to do something about it. That doesn't mean that it's all over. If we find that there's some little tweaks here or there, that's our obligation to make sure we employ people locally, as many as we can, and that we get the best work out of it every time. Not going to work, I'm sure, perfect, but it's going to be better than I think what we have right now. And so I'm supporting this because I think we can get there. I'm not trying to exclude our open shops. I still would like to understand why it's not working for you. Because there are, especially you get under $500,000, it doesn't even apply anyway. So I am supporting this because I think we can do better than what we've been able to do before. I think it's good for our community. I think it's good for setting a standard for other trades that are not up to standard yet of where they need to go and how they can get there. Just make sure they keep people skilled and trained. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ricky?
Yeah, I just want to echo Bill's sentiments here. I think it's important that when we pay for jobs, that they're done right the first time. I think this will help with that. I also support local jobs that pay well, so I support this ordinance. It's that simple.
Thank you. Councilmember Madrigal?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank the people that came and spoke tonight, members of our community, and folks that have an interest in this issue. We always, I'll just speak for myself. I hear a lot of different examples and urging by the public to spend our money locally. We as consumers, we push the idea, buy local. I think that also should include hire local, create local jobs, so that the money can stay here in our Modesto economy. When we have a situation where we as elected officials get asked, what are you going to do to create jobs here in Modesto for people here? This is clearly an example of us sending a message to say this is part of the solution. This is one of the examples of how we are going to create jobs for the Modesto community, because that's the kind of Modesto we want to have. And this is how we're going to decide that we're going to invest your local tax dollars to reinvest back into the people that work here, the working families of Modesto. And so it's for those reasons and many more that I am going to be supporting this motion. If anybody else doesn't have anything else to say, I'd definitely love to make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have Councilmember Canoyer.
Yes, I am a little concerned and not really sure that what this ordinance is doing what Councilmember Zalaki said, what Councilmember Ritchie said, and what Councilmember Madrigal said, because it is not a requirement. It is just a suggestion. So you saying that this is going to bring money back into the community, I'm not really sure if that is true, since it is, and this is what I've been told over and over again by our city council, this is just a recommendation. It is not mandatory. So it doesn't mean that we're going to see a big change in how the bids are handled. So I'm not really sure if I'm for or against this. I really am a little, would like to hear a little bit more about it and how it actually is going to bring money into our community, since it's not mandatory, since it's not really going to change a whole lot. That there's requirements by the state that they have to follow, no matter who they are. Federal money, they have to follow. So I am not going to vote yes or no. I'm going to actually abstain, because I do not feel like I have received enough information about how this is really going to bring money back into our economy.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments from council members? All right. I will just share some brief comments about some thoughts and feelings that I've had concerning this, and I hope that in some way you can relate to this. I have not been a contractor. No, I have not. But I've been spent my 40-plus years as an emergency room nurse. And one thing that resonated with me so much tonight is the training that's required. I kept hearing that over and over and over again, and it's the same way for an emergency room nurse. And the reason is because it's life and death situations that potentially each person puts themselves in, and I respect that. So I think that this brings us a step closer to recognizing that that's important, and that even if it does not change very much, according to everyone that I heard tonight, it may not, but it, I believe, sends a message that this is important to us. And I served on the school board also for 8 years, and we worked so diligently to have that connection with families living here and being involved with their children and their children's activities, and that we just know that that creates such a better community. So and it supports children and their education and everything in our future. So I will support this. And I want to ask one more time if there are any other comments. Seeing none, we have a motion. This is to introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance adding Article 7, local hiring preference in public works contracts, and Article 8, utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts, to Title 8, Chapter 3 of the Modesto Municipal Code. We have a motion, I believe, from Councilmember Madrigal. Is that correct? And a second from Councilmember Ricky.
And I'm sorry, before we go to the vote, just for Councilmember Knoyer, I know that your municipal code does state that all members of the council, when present, must vote, except in situations that the code provides, and abstention is usually deals with conflicts of interest. Can I answer the question potentially that Councilmember Knoyer had to potentially have her comfortable either voting yes or no to the ordinance itself? Mm-hmm. And Councilmember, the idea regarding even local hire, there were legal hurdles regarding as far as mandates for the local hire ordinance. And that's what we've been talking about. And I know that that question has come up over and over and over from council before, as far as can we require local hire? And this one's a good faith effort because there are some hurdles seen in San Francisco and in other areas as far as different studies that need to be done. Not hurdles that can't be overcome, but we didn't have kind of studies and everything, all the data that is required usually when adopting those ordinances that are mandatory. This was a step in the direction that we heard council members and the EDC bring up, and council members like Councilmember Zalak for a long time that's been working on this as far as how to do something. This was the step moving forward in that direction as far as a proposal for the council. So that's why it's brought forward as a good faith effort, because it also gets past some of those other legal hurdles as far as a mandatory ordinance goes.
All right.
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
That's all right.
Councilmember Ray.
Question to
Vice Mayor Ray.
City Attorney. Give me the definition of skilled and trained workforce.
The definition is actually in the draft ordinance itself, and it's in part of the public contract code. Palmer, if you have it handy, your mic, if you can come up, or the microphone's there, just to provide that definition, but it comes literally from the state law.
Skilled and trained workforce means a workforce that meets all the following conditions. 1, all the workers performing work in an apprenticeable occupation in the building and construction trades are either skilled journey persons or apprentices registered in an apprentice program, approved by the chief. 2, for work performed on or after January 1, 2017, at least 30% of the skilled journey persons employed to perform work on the contract or project by every contractor and each of its subcontractors at every tier are graduates of an apprenticeship program for the applicable occupation. This requirement should not apply to work performed in the occupation of a Teamster. And then it goes down the line of increasing the percentage every year, but it's the same occupations, and then they exempt more and more. But that's found in the presentation on what the exempted occupations are that 30% applies to.
So follow-up question, could that training be done in an open shop? Are there any regulation? I'm just trying to figure out, can that be done in an open shop, or does it have to be done through the unions, or help me here?
And I believe there were some comments from, I know ABC Local, that there were training that they do. But there are certain crafts done, trained in organizations like ABC NORC. And then the Palmer, it's the chief of the division of the apprenticeship standards of the Department of Industrial Relations that this is approved by. And again, what we ended up taking as far as the draft ordinance for the council to consider was straight something from the already established, which was something from state law. Instead of making it up, we really followed even the percentages of what a skilled and workforce is under the public contract code.
And the percentages cap out at January 2020, and that's the 60%. There hasn't been an increase in the cap, and unless the public contract code is amended, that is where it stays at.
Thank you, Palmer.
Thank you. Councilmember Canoyer?
Now, he just said that on the skilled and workforce, that there's a state requirement already built in, and we just are adding that to our ordinance?
No, the state requirement, I'm sorry for the confusion. The state requirement is when when local agencies actually impose it on certain contracts, or they're imposed by the type of contract it is from, for example, if it's from the state, if they impose it, for example, design build, or other types of contracts like school districts or other types of contracts required, affordable housing required, and that's what they point to, the state law. That's not for every single contract. What we would be doing or what the council would be doing if the council approved this ordinance would be to add a good faith effort of those things that I went through as far as advertising to find skilled workforce in order to try to get to those percentages. But again, it's a good faith effort that contractors would be looking for these skilled folks that could actually make those percentages. The percentages are just there because they're there in state law, so it provides a reference of what it means to have a skilled and trained workforce. That's why they're there, taken straight from what the law considers that to be.
Well, and Vice Mayor Wright asked if an open shop could the skilled and trained workforce.
The answer was yes. And the answer was yes, and we do have representatives, again, from folks like ABC NorCal that only have a certain amount, I think it's 6 of the trades, not all of them, but they do go through training there. So the answer is yes, with the example of one of the speakers, they have limited though in their own shop, but the answer was yes.
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand is this ordinance, I mean, I know that we keep saying hire locally, and which we do, I think. I would like to know, and it's going to be too late, I would like to know how many of the contracts that our city has done, especially in the in water and sewer, is where a lot of them come. How many actually of those contracts have been given to local, to local contractors? Because I think that's really important. Is this really going to expand that? Are we that far behind? I know people are going over the hill, but it's not over the hill always for the inability because we can't even find enough people to work to do the projects that we have now. So I just am not sure. I just haven't heard enough, and it probably is not going to make that much difference. but I really haven't heard enough to make me think that this is going to make a huge difference in our, economic development and money coming and staying in our city. I see Will's going to answer my question.
Okay, all right, there you go. Welcome.
Very good question, Councilmember Knoyer. So of majority of the water wastewater projects, if we define local as being in Stanislaus County, very few are done from contractors in Stanislaus County. A lot of them, from what I understand, a lot of the local contractors are more from electrical and do street work rather than the specialty water and wastewater work that we do. And then we award, we award to the lowest bidder. So that's the other part.
And is that because we don't have the workforce that's trained to do that?
That I don't know, but we go back to the lowest responsible bidder. So regardless of where the contractor is, we will always follow that and always award to the lowest contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Can I ask the city clerk to call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Knoyer?
No.
Councilmember Wright?
No.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. So the motion carries 4-2 with Councilmember Scudia Brayton absent. Thank you. So next, we will go on to item 14. I'll wait just a few moments. Thank you all for being here this evening. We appreciate it.
I'm going to take a quick
You're welcome.
bio break. I'm just going to take a quick bio break.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 9:01. competent. I will turn the time over to our city attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Mayor, members of the council, the item before you, I know, Mayor, you read it, is an amendment to the employment agreement for the city manager. This amendment is a result of a performance evaluation that was conducted by the city council on February 8th, which did have the unanimous vote of the council of the rating the city manager as highly competent. Very positive performance evaluation. The amendment, the only change in the amendment is it will be increasing the city manager's base salary. It will result in a 7.6 increase to Mr. Lopez base salary from $238,035 to $256,221. There is a 2.5 educational incentive that was already part of the agreement, and it is something offered to many other employees, which will bring the new total compensation to $262,627. Would also like to point out, as pointed out in the staff report, that this is the first merit increase received by the city manager since he was appointed on July 10th, 2018. I'm happy to answer any questions from the council.
All right, at this time, questions from council members. All right, I do not see any in person or online. Any comments from the public? I have a blue card from Sebastian Jones. Okay, all right. So I think what we'll do is go on to comments from council members, and then we can come back to him when he returns. Any comments from council members? Council member, Vice Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say that I think Joe's done a great job over the last 4 years. I think, if I my math right, 4 or 5 years. This is a new position for him as city manager, and went through a lot of difficult times with some council members in the past, and actually has come out better, and I think the quality is something that we could be proud of in our city manager. Looking forward to serving another, I think I got 3 more years on this council with you, and I know there's a lot of great things that are going to be done here in Modesto because of your leadership.
All right, we will go to Sebastian Jones for public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mayor, I'm sorry. Can I take this off? Yeah. I had 4 shots, okay? Nuclear shots or COVID shots. This thing makes me not breathe.
Okay.
Can I take it off?
Yes.
Thank you. And it's a new mask. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Once again, I stand before you. I guess the city manager is looking for a raise. Is that what we're here for?
This is employment agreement, adjusting the compensation as a result of the delivery of a very positive performance evaluation rating of highly competent.
Yeah, I kind of missed this one here. And I was just going to comment. I don't know, is this a raise or what is this here we're talking about? Is this a performance of his job?
Yes.
Is that including the raise, step up?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, we can't do that right now. Because, you know, in his past, I've been here 9 years or 8 years, and he done some things that was wrong to the other mayor. And I have not forgot. And see, these sneaky things, it'll get you in a trap, and I don't think his job performance deserve what we're looking for. You know, you can check the records. At one time, I was trying to say get rid of him, but I didn't have that power. But I think y'all need to wait a little bit. But I know Jenny and I know Dave, you know, they partners. They gonna go for it. I already know it. Maybe Bill might weigh in on it because they all stick together. But, you know, I just speak freely. I don't mean no harm. I'm just being Sebastian. And I just feel that at this time, let's give it a little, you know, we got this pandemic going, this kind of society right now, and money is kind of, you know, money is kind of little ain't right, you know, because I don't want that little 8.5 million we got from the park. I don't want them getting none of that. I don't want y'all tapping in that. And for Cedar Chavez, I don't want y'all tapping in that. That's for the west side. So I think we should just wait, because we need money, and he's doing pretty good on his salary. And like I said, I speak how I speak. And I think that we should put this on the hold and let him prove himself a little bit more. Because the last time we was in the meeting at the Cannabis meeting, and he had said something against the people that was fighting, like beware of this with the other meeting. And I wanted to say something to him then, but I didn't say nothing. Because when African Americans is trying to get somewhere, he had to put in a curveball. But anyway, I thank you for the time. Once again, I'm so glad to see you guys. I'm just going to be Sebastian. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Knoyer?
Yes, I just want to comment that in the 9 years that I've been on council, I have seen our city manager deal with some very difficult, very, very difficult time. He's always been so professional, never made any comment negative about anyone. And he hasn't had the normal progressions like other, you know, council, other charter members. And I think he's very, very deserving of this, especially since not just one, but every council person said that his performance was exceptional. So I am going to be very much in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilmember Zalaki?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo those same sentiments of Councilmember Knoyer and Councilmember Wright. Joe has, in my opinion, performed very well. And I've watched as he has taken on a job that had some challenges and managed. There was a time where, as I said, as iron hardens when it's made red and pounded and molded into a stronger element. And he has successfully been through some trials, trial by fire at times, and he held his demeanor and continued just doing the task and getting the job done, which for me was refreshing and just a compliment to where we are as a city council. I see how well this council is working together under everything that's been put together as we have molded as a unit in this new council. And it's great to see the changes. It's great to see what our city manager has been able to accomplish. And so I compliment him. And Mayor, when it comes time, I'd like to make the recommendation on the resolution.
All right.
After everybody's had a chance to speak.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Madrigal?
Just want to say, if you look at the city of Modesto, say in relative comparison to, say, some of our other cities in Stanislaus County who have experienced frequent turnover in their executive leadership and their city managers, you know, I appreciate the stability that our city manager has brought to our city manager position in his role, and doing so is another sign of how our city and our leadership is doing well, and that I appreciate.
right, thank you.
Move to approve.
All right, I want to make a comment, if I might. I want to recognize Joe's openness to our new council and to the many, many, many ideas and solutions that we have brought to improve our community. They say if you have even one new council member, it is a new council, and it truly is. He has had 4 of us to train and to help, along with all the city staff that I cannot give enough credit to, that have helped us get to where we are. And I look forward to many more opportunities to improve our city. I was going to list all the things that we have worked on over the last little bit. I think I will mention a few that we've tackled. We had an officer-involved shooting. We've started Forward Together to look at policing. We have done committee appointments and participation in said committees. We are developing a youth commission. We have communications positions that are being filled. We have regular meetings with all the council members. We've had multiple council development workshops to discuss our code of conduct and ethics. We've managed a budget. We have regular editorial board meetings. We have discussed and implemented some of our ARP funding with another round to go. We have reviewed and done our charter review, charter officer review process. We have talked very often about our homeless population, our trees, housing. We attend ribbon cuttings. We have worked with the state of California to address blight and noise. We have our new blight committee. There was a threat to my life. We have discussed our general plan. We have discussed our charter review, and we'll bring that to the voters. Fire regionalization, hired a police chief, our chat team, heart team. We have many, many, many projects and initiatives that we're working on, and Joe has guided us through all of it, and I appreciate it. That's not even the whole list. So I want to recognize his leadership and express what a privilege it is to work with him. I would like to open it to him to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. And just real briefly, I just want to say thank you to the council for the feedback. I really appreciate it. It helps me grow and be the best city manager I can for you and for our community. And I do appreciate the positive feedback, but I would be remiss if I wasn't including our entire senior executive team. This is as much a reflection of them as it is of me. And not only the senior executive team, but our entire staff here at the City of Modesto. We work with a bunch of committed, dedicated public servants who are committed to providing the best level of service to our community. And so really, this is a reflection of everybody and not just me. And I truly look forward to continuing to work with all of you over the coming years to continue to make Modesto a world-class city. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I had a motion from Councilmember Zalaki.
Yeah, I had originally asked.
Okay, right, yeah. The motion from Councilmember
I'll
Zalaki.
second.
And a second from Vice Mayor Wright.
I think you guys should rock, scissors, paper.
I'd like to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Ricky,
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki,
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Zwan.
Aye. Carries 6 with 1 absent. Councilmember Escudia Brayton absent. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I am calling, oh, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I want to welcome our new public relations gentleman, Andrew Gonzalez, started today, I believe. And I'm sorry we didn't introduce you earlier, but it's great. We're looking forward to a lot of positive things we can put out there to our community, what we're doing as a council. And we just want to welcome you to Modesto and hope you're here for a long time.
All right. I was going to introduce you, but I thought maybe you might, I guess you would be prepared with something to say, but we'll just leave it at that. I thought it's your first day here. I'll give you a break, but I really do appreciate you being here and staying till the bitter end, or the beautiful end. It's a great meeting tonight. Thank you so much, and seeing no matters that are too late for the agenda, I am calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.